You're listening to The Watchers, a show where two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch movies and TV about...
I had one.
I feel like... Do you want to just do it?
Good, but... Oh, I was just going to say we're two women from opposite ends of New Jersey watch TV about what happens when you fuck with a Jersey tomato.
Yeah, but they're all Jersey tomatoes.
I know
fucking
they
with Jersey
are,
tomatoes.
but Tawny is a real Jersey tomato. Like, okay, but wait. I'm gonna start with a conspiracy theory. The two women that are taking control of this shit
are the two who are actually from New Jersey in real
Misty,
life.
Yes, are the two actresses actually from New Jersey. In fact, I'm wearing my Montclair State sweatshirt in honor of Christina Ricci today.
Amazing.
Even though she didn't go there, she grew up there.
Beautiful.
Yeah. You're Andrea.
And you're Jodie. That was a trick.
I love that our first episode back after our interview with Ashley, we're just like, how do we podcast? What's a podcast?
How do we podcast the season finale of this show?
I know. Holy crap. I think the first thing I said to you about it, because you watched it before I did by an hour or two, and the first thing I think I said, other than I think I said fuck at some point, was that was satisfying.
Yeah, that's my
take.
Overall feeling too.
Yeah. Like, God forbid this is the last episode. This is an okay place to end it on. It's not a great place to end it on, but it's an okay place to end it on. Because, like, you know, there are movies and TV shows that purposely end on ambiguous endings where you wouldn't know if they actually got rescued or if they stayed there forever. But we know that they want to show the rescue or the post-rescue. Yeah. So it's not satisfying to end it. But
get rescued, even if we don't know all the fine points of it.
Yeah, because we know some of them lived. Right.
Right.
But
and it coming down in a way, so first thing, last week when we talked to Ashley Lyle, and you asked her specifically about this, and I was thinking about her answer because it, to me, felt more like she said, optimistic, setting up for something new.
Yeah.
Like, it really feels like, which is what you and I have kind of been hoping for,
right? That
it would make plenty of sense if season 4 starts with them landing in Jersey or whatever, and that the present timeline is the final girls, the three of them, who were the first three, really, Misty, Ty, and Shauna, Nat excluded, but for, various reasons. But it would make sense for that season to be the three of them and then post-rescue. I don't know how they do 5 seasons on this show.
I know. I think 4 is perfect, actually, now, and I hate to say that because I want more of the show, but I think in terms of the way they've set things up, I don't know. I do trust them, though, because this felt very there were so many seeds here, so many plants, so many things that were planted. That's the word.
We call them seeds.
Well, the seeds were earlier. That's why I got confused.
That's what we call them in South Jersey. We call them seeds. I don't know if you have vegetation up north.
No, I know what seeds are. We had a garden in North Jersey.
Saplings.
And we actually grew
sprouts.
We grew vegetables.
Sprouts.
Yeah. So I don't remember why I was talking about seeds. Oh, there were things in the finale that I was like, this was what the plan was, right? And I know a lot of people are saying like, oh, things have kind of gotten out of hand and they don't know where they're going with this. And I do disagree with that. But just to connect to what you were just saying about the how it would be interesting to just season 4 be like almost a new section of the story or a new beginning. There was a recent interview with Deadline with Ashley and Bart that just came out, and Bart said, there's something very interesting about getting the opportunity to do the end of a story that is actually the beginning. You're always in the middle of your story to a certain extent, and getting to do what feels like the end of something that the audience is so in on that we joke, oh my God, this is actually just the beginning of this whole other story that we've now seen as a fun narrative challenge. So he's talking more about the like 2 timelines there, but I do think that it's interesting to think about like, okay, theoretically we could be ending a piece of the story, but there could be a whole other world for us to explore in this third timeline.
Right. And just because Man, I have so many thoughts.
I know.
So one thing is Ashley was very careful when we brought up the third possibility of a third timeline, that post-rescue pre-early or pre-2000s, whatever.
Right.
You know what I mean? Pre-2020s. And she just seemed very careful in a very specific way that makes me feel like, of course, that's going to be the focus. And especially at this point, there's not a whole lot more for us to do in the wilderness.
To Pit Girl. Yeah.
Right. And just because we don't have, I'm sure we've said this, but just to be really clear, just because we don't have Akilah and Jen and Robin in the adult timeline doesn't mean they don't make it home and stuff happens. We have no idea
exactly.
in the 90s. So
yeah. And like, the same interview, the interviewer said they were talking about what it would be like when they got home. Right. And, they were saying, you know, in another interview, Liv Houston was saying they were very excited to explore the media reaction to these young women because the media in the 90s was a very specific, very misogynistic place. And
good thing that's all better now.
Yeah, it's all fixed. But Ashley said, oh my God, hard copy. We've always had this sort of dream version of the quick hard copy montage of like the return of the Yellowjackets.
Oh my God.
And obviously the media would be interested in covering the story. And at the same time, the girls are very interested in it not covering the story. So like.
Right. The tension there.
Yeah. Like there's so many things that they could mine that are so up their alley in terms of like the way the media would deal with something like this and the various reactions all the girls would have.
In that particular time period.
Yeah.
Like they're so thoughtful about. And
one of them goes on Ricky Lake. Like, yeah, you know.
Totally.
Or and Sally Jesse.
So perfect. Well, one goes on Sally Jesse, one goes on Ricky Lake.
And one goes on Geraldo.
Huge Geraldo shout out. Thank you so much.
No problem.
And especially something that you and I have talked about a lot and that it seems like people are talking about more and more, just the idea of surveillance and people consuming this story. And you can't really do much of that while they're still in the woods.
And who's telling it and therefore what you're hearing about it. Like I could see one of them like, you know, parlaying their celebrity into a spot on the Real World. Like,
you know,
there's
that
all
would have
sorts
been
of possibilities. Would have been Mari.
That would have been Mari, 100%.
I'm so sad about Mari.
Heartbreak.
I throughout the whole scene, and we should just get into the recap, but throughout the whole scene, as she's like running and shedding her clothes and everything, every time I was like, it could still not be her.
Me too.
She's wearing the jacket. It's not her. Maybe it's not her. And then she shakes it off, and I'm like, that's the night. No, it could still not be her. Her foot isn't bloody. And then she fell.
Like,
and
what
like,
if? Yeah. What if her and Hannah swap clothes?
Right. Yeah, I was trying to come up with every excuse that it could be, but
which is so funny because we have. I'm going to keep saying we've been saying this all along, but we keep falling for the same tricks the same way the girls are. Where it's like, of course it was going to be Mari, and I sound like such a rewriting history because everybody knows I've been clinging so tightly to the possibility of it not being Mari, but that's the point. Is that like, and of course it was.
Yeah,
Who else would it have been?
And they did a really nice job at the beginning of this season with that first episode with Mari as the decoy, right? Playing with us, being like, she's the decoy. You all think it's her. But then it was.
And then putting her in the pit early to be like, she is pit girl, but maybe this is her being pit girl.
Yep.
Like,
yeah, and like, oh my God, how could she fall in the pit again? She knows it's there. And it's like,
how could these women make the same mistake again and not listen to the lessons they learned in the past? What?
Exactly.
Huh.
Also, there were no spikes in that pit before. Travis. Jesus.
There's so much there. Okay, we've got to get into this.
But yeah, I know we need to get started, but I also just, in relationship, before I forget to say this, in relationship to Travis and the pit, there was this exact discussion of like, why didn't Mari know the pit was there and all of that? And there's all these reasons, you know, they're starving, they're blah, 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 right?
She's not a tracker. I would never learn where anything is. I'd get lost going from hut to hut every day. I would never learn my way around.
But then someone on Reddit named Wrong Dentist 7206 said, Travis added spikes to the pit and covered him to try to kill Lottie. With the snow, it was pretty invisible, blah, blah, blah. And so then the next person, Crystal RAF, said, I get that, but at some point Travis could have been like, yo, everyone except Lottie and Shauna, be careful out there. Huge invisible death pit.
It's a good point.
It is a very good point.
Except nobody trusts anybody, and alliances shift so quickly on this show that nobody's but a point well taken and also agreed to some degree for sure.
I do think the last couple of episodes have happened in very quick succession out there. So maybe he didn't have a time to warn people about the huge invisible death pit that he
also
built.
Important to remember that he is just fully tripping balls on shrooms all the time, always.
And drinking wine, like berry wine from the ground. Yeah, he was a disaster this episode, which is honestly one of the most relatable Travis moments I think I've had, is him just being like full on checked out, drunk, just like, I hate all of you. Like, we were supposed to leave.
Running, all of them running to get their weapons, and him just like knocking back a cold one is really understandable.
Okay, so little behind the scenes, we do often split these into two timelines because it's easier to discuss, but there's so much crossover this episode that I think we're going to go in the chronological order, the way the show is structured, because otherwise it's going to be too hard to break it apart. So we start,
and just to remind everybody, when we talked to Ashley last week, should I add, I don't have my soundboard with me, so I can't mark every time I say when we talked to Ashley. She gave us the scoop. This music video is out now that that Bart directed with an original song from Anna and Craig. It's this first song, Sleepwalking. I think it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's haunting and beautiful. Fits the vibe. Feels like winter.
Yes. Definitely check out the music video. This whole episode was directed by Bart, which, Ashley mentioned last when we talked to her, written by Ameni Rosa. And then, so we start with Teen Lottie sleeping in the woods to that beautiful song. And immediately I wrote shots of the cave in parentheses, Plato's fucking cave.
You love that cave.
We're in Plato's cave, guys.
I know.
The shadows on the wall. The shadow on the wall of the Antler Queen. Come on.
There's a lot of stuff. There's also, we get Shauna playing the prison warden.
Yeah.
With Matt's bed check.
Oh my God. Yeah. So Lottie, we're getting a lot of cutting back and forth. So this may sound a bit disjointed, but we've got Lottie.
I will say
it's intentionally disjointed.
It's intentionally disjointed. I did have a little trouble in a way that once I was settled in, I was like, oh, I kind of like this, getting settled into the groove of it, because it is so disorienting.
Yeah.
It seemed like folks online were having a little trouble placing this, some people, and I think it is directly like that night, because Hannah says she wants to be a part of it. She's playing Shauna's muscle. Shauna thinks Nat is up to something but isn't sure what yet.
Yeah, I wasn't sure either, to be honest, like where we were in time, like how much time had passed, because specifically Hannah with the crossbow was like seemed so embedded in the group at that point, but it could have been a day or two, it could have been longer. It's hard to say. Well,
and I think too, because that snow had just started to fall, and then the next morning from the scene we've got a full snowfall. So I think it was directly after.
I think you're right. But I also understand the confusion, because I had the same confusion.
Yeah, I had to think about it, but that feels right to me for this.
Yeah. We see a shot of people walking by the huts with torches. That bed check threw me. I was like, what? It felt very like prison, or like psych hospital or something. Like it was very I was trying to figure out what they thought she could be hiding in there.
Oh, I think it was an intimidation tactic.
Yeah,
I think Shauna has gone full prison warden. And is so paranoid that she's like, I don't know what she could be hiding, but she could be hiding something.
Right.
It's very Shauna.
Yeah, totally. And we start to get hints here of like, again, these alliances, but they're getting a little more solid, because we're seeing this is intercut with Misty and Nat in the moment where Nat finds Misty with the transponder. And so we're seeing Misty and Nat after that kind of making eye contact as Nat's hut is getting ransacked. And we're also seeing at the same time them having this conversation that is leading to this like alliance that's being built, right? But I love Nat screaming "fuck you" like 1,000 times at Misty, and like
totally reasonable, understandable,
so valid, so valid,
yeah, absolutely.
And Misty saying, "I know, I wish I could undo it," which I thought was like, we kind of assumed at this point maybe she was regretting it a little bit just recently, like when everything went to shit.
Right.
As soon as she realized there was a possibility of like going home after everything they've been through, you can kind of see it on her. But like, this is the first time she really expressed true regret for doing that.
Mm-hmm. And we haven't really thought, or at least I haven't thought too much about Misty's headspace in that moment, other than I saw that they needed me. I've always wanted them to need me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a different world out here. But I'm sure she also thought, like, somebody will find us.
Right. And
people
like,
get found. Like, we're not just going to be stuck out here for 19 months.
Right. And I'm sure that moment, her, you know, the next steps in her brain we're going to end up hunting and eating each other.
Exactly.
So, but so we have this like setup moment where Misty asks, "Are you going to tell everyone?" Like, kind of crying,
so scared.
Well, yeah. They'd fucking murder her instantly.
Oh yeah.
But Nat says, "Tell me how this can get home," and we get the conversation about the sat phone and that Van's trying to fix it. And I want to point out here, we talked about this a little off mic, but all of these scenes when we're cutting back and forth have the VHS tape effect. Mm-hmm. It is so present in this episode. Like, it's obviously it's in the credits. It's come up a bunch of times before, but it's usually specific to like with the Paul and Ben scene where, you know, he's kind of slipping back and forth between like reality and his mind palace or whatever.
It's often attached to somebody with a sort of our most reliable folks, the lesser of them in terms of like mental wellness and like,
or in like a dramatically like altered state due to some sort of trauma or something else.
Right.
Like Ben was, you know, starving to death basically while he was hallucinating Paul, and that was happening at the same time. But it is throughout this episode.
Yeah. And I also think, just to be totally clear and sure, we've only seen that glitch in the past, right? I don't think we've ever seen it in the present.
That's a great question, and I would need to actually go back and look to confirm or deny, because I am not sure.
Yeah,
I associate it with the past, but
yeah, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. I think that's something I really would have noticed because I think of it as so connected to the past. But
and it's literally like a VHS tape, like getting stuck or skipping, you know,
right?
So, and that's 90s.
And just the connection to memory, you know.
Exactly. Well, that's why I should have said that's why I noted it so much. This episode was like, I associate that with two things. Like, one, the choppiness and the sort of instability of memory, and also with like recording and surveillance and
it's doing quite a lot.
The dateline of it all and the hard copy of it all. Like, we've been talking about like whose story are we actually hearing, and you know, all of that. So I think that's going to come up a lot probably in this discussion because there were a lot of nods to that. We go back to the fire. Misty and Nat are sort of talking, whispering as her hut's being ransacked. Misty asks if she's okay, and Nat says, "Don't fucking talk to me."
Fair.
But Misty and Van also make eye contact. So we're starting to see this little like three-way alliance. Like, can we get this device working happening? And then, because what is the show, Andrea?
A comedy.
Because the show's a comedy, we do a quick camera swipe over to Joel McHale's head with arrows in it, like it was target practice.
Really good.
I laughed very hard at that because it's so fucking serious, and then it's like, oh, they're shooting arrows into a severed head.
Into a severed head. It's also, we haven't really talked, or I haven't made this comparison on the podcast yet, but you know, we talk Lord of the Flies, but there's some real like Heart of Darkness stuff in here too. And so for folks who haven't had to read Heart of Darkness 100 times as an English major, it's also what Apocalypse Now is based on, although they're in totally different. I think Apocalypse Now, which I've never seen, I think that's the Vietnam War.
I believe so.
This is like 1800s ivory trade stuff. And oh boy, maybe next week can be our
Freud. And do you want Freud week to be next week?
Well, we'll talk at the end, but there is a lot of, it's not even just Freud stuff, but there's just like so much critical theory about,
I know,
specifically like we'll probably cut some of this at least, but like I wrote my senior capstone paper on Heart of Darkness and the picture of Dorian Gray. It doesn't matter, but there's like so much about the heads on spikes and what they're seeing and what that puts up between the like civilized world and the quote unquote wild world and the like self and other there. But in this case, because it's just these girls and there are no like quote unquote like others, natives or savages or others, they have to play both roles and what that does. And so there's just so much to be said about all of this here.
Yeah. And it's also just really funny to see a replica of Joel McHale's head with arrows in it.
And it's also just really fucking funny.
It's like they go from covering Javi's face with cloth to putting Ben's severed head on a stump or whatever next to the feast to using Joel McHale's head as target practice.
Such a good point. And like, so there's some like de-evolution for you. And then also Javi, it's like, there are so many ways to read these girls, because you could also say like, well, they still have some humanity in them for children, and for Ben a little bit more who they knew, and now a little less for this guy. If you want, if you want to read it that way,
but also,
you know,
we go back to young Lottie dreaming, because this is still going on in the flashes back and forth, and we hear adult Lottie in this dream saying, "I'm ready," and then young Lottie walks in the cave. And it's all lit by fire. She says, "My will is your will." And this is the sort of spectral, ghostly antler queen.
So cool. I love her.
Yeah, it was very cool. They both raise up their arms. The light from the fire is landing on young Lottie. The music swells and Lottie screams and falls to her knees. And then we get a couple of flashes that were so quick that I had to pause my TV like 17 times because my internet's terrible to try to get it. But it's child Lottie in the cabin with antlers, like where we had seen teen Lottie. It's like a younger version of Lottie. And then, have you seen this screenshot?
I haven't seen this.
Okay. So for
Shauna?
the people, no, that is Lottie after the beating.
With the cabin burning behind her.
And the symbol over her face. Yes. So for people who aren't on Reddit and haven't seen this screen cap, it is very, very fast in this compilation that starts with Lottie falling to her knees, a flash of child Lottie with the antlers over her head, and then the next flash that is like half a second, I swear to God.
It's so fast that I didn't even notice it.
Yeah.
And I watched pretty carefully.
Yeah. Is the cabin burning, layered with the symbol, layered with the look on Lottie's face while it's burning, with just being beaten up by Shauna. And you can read, I'm not going to argue one way or the other on this, but you can read this as she's just flashing back to the moment in the cabin burning. You can read this as she burned down the fucking cabin. Like, there's lots of ways to take it. I recently, as of this season, went back and watched the finale of last season when the cabin burned and noted that Lottie looks like she's laughing at one point. And it could, I mean, people laugh at funerals, you know, people have weird reactions to tragedy, but Lottie's reaction was odd in that cabin burning scene. And we're probably not ever going to find out who burned down the cabin, and that's fine. But this was definitely like a moment for me. Like, interesting that they show this right now. So
yeah, it wasn't in any
it wasn't
case
connected to anything else.
And it wasn't accidental. They didn't accidentally make this composite shot and sink it in very quickly.
Exactly. So, but the next thing we see is young Lottie entering the morgue. And this is another, I love these two, the two versions of the same character getting to interact. And we haven't really seen young Lottie and adult Lottie interacting like this.
No, I don't think we have at all. And this is young Lottie pre-crash. She's wearing the outfit she was wearing in the woods at the
party,
the like keg party.
Yep, that cute little like pink sweater, and she's got her hair all
clueless.
Nice. And yeah, exactly. But adult Lottie is under the sheet on the table, and she sits up in a panic and says, "Did I miss it?" Which, this whole thing, like. You and I we also sometimes look at the transcripts of the episode to make sure we get everything. And the transcript has all of the sound effects in parentheses. And so the song Sleepwalking is still going on throughout this whole thing. But also there are, in parentheses, muffled screaming continues, screaming growing louder, gasping, whimpers, like all of this stuff that's layered in the background. Wild.
I don't even know how to handle this scene because I have so many questions about it. First thing is, did you at all, even for half of 1 second, think this was Lottie waking up for real and that she had somehow faked her own death?
No.
Okay. It is interesting to me that it is clearly shot. It's dreamlike. Like, I think you can tell that it's a dream, but that Lottie and Lottie don't get a plane scene. They get a morgue scene.
Yeah, I know. The lack of a plane scene is definitely notable. The only reason I didn't immediately go there is I think because Teen Lottie was there. Like if we had seen just a POV shot of in the morgue of Lottie sitting up before Teen Lottie came in or something, I might have had a moment of pause, but because it was clear that it was like their meeting after death, just like with Nat meeting herself after death, just like Van meeting herself after death, like
is she
just a different place.
Did I miss the plane?
To me, where I landed with this was she says, "Did I miss it?" Her teen version says, "We didn't miss anything. Do you remember what we promised? It's time to meet her." To me, this was about Lottie's built up mythology about Shauna's child. And like, did I miss it? Meaning like, did I miss this chance to come together with this, our child? Like, as we see later, she has this weird ownership. And I could be totally off base, but that's how it read to me, because we hear during this conversation, we hear a baby crying in the distance. And then she wakes up, theoretically, in the basement, and it's dark. And she says, "Oh no, are you there?" And so to me, it was about like this meeting of herself and this like mythologized child of the wilderness that she's created in her head.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, and I sort of felt it too. But the second I think about it, I'm like, but she knows that she met Callie, because Callie's the one who killed her.
I know.
So
that's where it falls apart.
Who are we going to meet? And do you remember what we promised?
Yeah. I'm not quite there yet on this.
I don't think we've seen, Lottie's had plenty of conversations we don't know about, but have we seen her promise anything?
So just now, as you're saying this, I'm thinking about, when later in this episode, when Lottie is in the cave and Akilah comes into the cave and finds her, she is saying, "I can hear it. I'm not afraid. Whatever you need, I will give you freely with every breath till my breath finally stops." And so that is a promise of some kind, right? And it could be, I don't know what the...
You know what I think? We haven't seen...
That she was going to kill Callie?
Akilah. We haven't seen Akilah.
No, I know. Oh, I got thoughts about where the fuck Akilah is.
And so maybe what she promises Akilah is that Akilah's sacrifice of all those animals and now her life won't be in vain.
Maybe. I don't know. I just know that like there is a promise that she has made to the wilderness that is very vague, but obviously means something
just to remind everybody, I will throw out every possible theory I could have at any point. There's one.
I mean, we don't see Akilah again, and I want to talk about that later. I'm worried for you, Akilah.
Well, also an odd choice to have Lottie then wake up within the dream in her PJs.
Yeah.
Like, why an outfit change?
I know. There's a lot there that I want to like get really granular about, but also I don't know that it's going to lead anywhere. Cause
I don't know how we can. There's so much like
trust me,
confusion there.
But because this is, I think why me being people, like in this initial scene, we're like, I don't know what's happening, but it's cool. And I'm going to just kind of go with it because like, I don't know where we're headed, but.
Well, we'll have 3 to 4 years probably to tease it out. So
we don't even have a confirmed season 4 yet.
I know.
They haven't announced that it's been picked up, and it fucking better be.
Oh, I just learned that Mythic Quest isn't coming back, and they're getting to drop an updated. So season 4 just ended, and then it was announced that it's not coming back, and so they're going to release an updated season 4 finale to sort of give us some closure.
Oh, interesting.
Which is so sweet. Yeah,
that's an interesting way to handle that. Mm-hmm. Okay, so then we get the credits. And we go to the present, like fully in the present. Shauna and Ty in the car.
Can Shauna shut up for 2 seconds?
No. She has no fucking self-awareness. Yeah.
You knew she was a threat? Shut up, Shauna.
Yeah. No self-awareness whatsoever. The love of her life, the love of Ty's life just died at the hands of your friend. It's your fault they're there.
Well, and Shauna thinks the move is to say, I told you so?
Yeah.
And it's so hard to say what the fuck is up with Melissa, because it's like, my first thought was like, well, she wouldn't have been a threat if you didn't go bother her. And then
she sent the tape.
But the letter, as we learn later,
I know,
is straightforward. So who knows? But none of these women can be trusted.
I know.
It's so hard to like, but yeah, but anyway.
Melissa is in this weird in-between place for us right now where it's like,
right.
It doesn't make sense that she would just send the letter and, you know, just to clear her conscience, but then also be like, oh, but, you know, I want to be a part of the wilderness still, and I'm going to kill Van. Like,
exactly.
Those things don't really match up. So we're sort of left in this place with Melissa where we're not quite sure which direction she's going to go. But Ty is like, no, just shut the fuck up. They pull off the road. And this is where that Mystery of Love starts playing.
Yeah, so that's a Marianne Faithfull song. We'll talk more about. I was going to save this for the end, but there's not a whole lot to say, so I'll just say it now.
Okay.
Marianne Faithfull, she's like, what I did know about her is she's a singer-songwriter who is sort of known as being the Rolling Stones muse. Satisfaction was said to have been written about or inspired by her and a few other songs.
At some point.
Yeah. She had a stillborn baby with Mick Jagger, but what I didn't know is she struggled with drugs, was homeless on the streets off and on for a lot of her career. She seemed to have made some recovery pretty late in life, but it totally, she had this like kind of beautiful higher register voice in the early days. And then because of drugs and smoking, and she ended up with like a kind of like, not quite Tom Waits, but like a much raspier, harsher, lower voice. And Craig and Anna specifically said they were channeling her when in their in the vocals for Sleepwalking.
Yeah.
And so, because she died in January of 2025.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
So she lived a long time. That's the other thing, is that despite all of that, she, you know, she made it through her horrific 1980s and 90s and died in 2025. And so the connection of Sleepwalking and then using the Mystery of Love here, I think, was obviously intentional.
Yeah. And the lyrics, right? It's like the mystery of love belongs to you. And then it's, am I a fool and all of me because of you? Tell me, do we still have time to make this wrong somehow be right? Like, it's so tragic. And the scene that we see while this is playing is Ty opening the back of the trunk, which we had seen a flash of. That it was one of the quick images we had seen in the trailer and not actually seen in the show yet. Right. And fucking Shauna with no self-awareness, again, like, you know, says, can I at least help or whatever? At least let me help you. And Ty says, you're not fucking touching her. You get me the shovel. You can come down wherever you want to on Ty's, like, other Ty, real Ty. Is it two versions of the same person? Whatever. Is she integrated? But I really like the version of Ty that is over Shauna's shit.
Totally.
Because we're seeing it in both timelines, and I am here for it. You do not fuck with a Jersey tomato.
That's right.
She is not having it. So she lugs. Oh, also, I just wanted to mention here, I don't know if there was any thought to this when they decided this or filmed this part, but, you know, 6 Feet Under, the show that is where I fell in love with Lauren Ambrose and is a huge part of her backstory as an actor, is about death and is about burial and is about how people choose to, like, the end of this show itself famously has this montage where we see how each character dies. And before that montage, like earlier in that season or the previous season, Nate, the sort of our POV character in the beginning, dies, which was a big shock. Yeah. So spoilers for 6 Feet Under, a show that ended like 2 decades ago. But yeah, so Nate, our sort of main character in the beginning, dies, and he requests a green burial, which is not a thing at the time, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's barely a thing. It's illegal. And so he requests to be put in the ground in a piece of cloth and buried so he can go back to the earth, like under this specific tree. And so his family honors his wishes, and they carry him to the grave themselves and put him in the ground and bury him. And it is like, I'm getting choked up thinking about it. And you know how rarely that happens to me. It's
and
really
just so everybody knows, I'm also getting choked up for a show that I watched one episode of. But that's
incredibly beautiful. Like, we've gone through so much with Nate and with this whole family, and his mother is there, and it's this beautiful scene. And this is not that. This is a very twisted version of that. But this idea that it is the actor that played Claire in that specific scene is now being buried by her lover in the ground, like off of the side of the road, it looks like, in Virginia.
I know it's probably Virginia, but man, do I want it to be the Pine Barrens. Man, do I want them
so much
Can
better.
We just retcon that and say that it's the Pine Barrens?
Yeah, I think we can. Because otherwise, why are you burying the love of your life off the side of the road in a state you will probably never be in again?
Right.
Like,
it's the Pine Barrens. It's Ong's Hat.
Sure. Okay, yes. Okay, we've decided she's buried in Ong's Hat. I like that much better.
Yeah.
I'm totally procrastinating because the next part, again, I had to cover the screen.
I mean, I wrote she's such a body here. Like the thunk. It's so just...
And that's what made me think of the 6 Feet Under, because there's so much emphasis on the weight of his physical body as they put it in the ground.
That makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally, like, she's rolling the carpet with her in it, and it's slowly like unrolling. And Ty says, "I'm done forgetting, Van. Starting now, I'm going to remember it, all of you and all of me."
Did you notice anything about this line delivery at all?
Like what?
Did it feel extra Jersey to you? I'm done forgetting, Van.
Oh, I wish I had noticed that, but I was trying really hard. I knew what was coming because I love these actors so much. I need them to talk less. Because right before, like the day before the finale went up, there was a clip going around social media of them talking about, like, oh, can you tease anything about the finale? And Tawny Cypress is like, it's got heart. And then it's like they kept mentioning the word heart. And I was like, guys.
That's okay, Tawny. That's so funny.
Stop.
But yeah, you're right.
It's just, she looked gorgeous in that interview, but that's a side note. But so I knew what was coming.
Okay,
I just knew. They had mentioned the heart enough times. I was like, she's going to eat her heart. Like, that's just what's going to happen.
So you got to go back and listen, because, again, when we asked Ashley about if other Ty has more of a Jersey accent, now I like the idea, actually, that when Ty severed, one of the things she lost was her Jersey accent.
Now she's reintegrating.
Now that she's reintegrated, the two halves come together and she's full Jersey. Okay. Because the way she said, she's like, "I'm done forgetting, Van."
Oh, I gotta go back and listen.
It's really good.
I love that. But yeah, this is what we saw in the preview.
So the good news for you, if you didn't watch, which I think was really nice of them, because this isn't a show that shies away from gore. It's all other than the actual bite of the heart. It's all out of frame. Right. I mean, they do great. It's great Foley work here. The sound is,
my God, I know.
Brutal. But I think it's kind of nice that is a moment in its own way, just for Ty and Van.
I did appreciate that. And I wrote "ugh" noises in my notes. I knew it.
It's also,
yuck.
I know, like, maybe we don't need to be keeping track of the crimes, but mutilating a dead body is a crime, whether you are the cause of that body's death or not.
Fucking burying it in the ground without telling anyone that the person is dead.
Yeah,
like
I know that
Van's mom is gone. Van apparently has no siblings. Most of these people apparently have no siblings.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of only children. But like, it's still not your like right to just take a body and put it somewhere after it's gone. Little transition, because I need to get away from the cutting up a corpse thing.
Yeah.
There is an interesting little moment of eye contact with Shauna sitting in the car when Ty walks back up to it with her bloody face. But we can move past that because it's much more fun to have Callie and Misty interacting again. I
wrote Misty and Lottie.
Oh,
interesting. I met Callie.
Yeah. Callie's vaping under the bleachers, which I guess is the modern day version of smoking under the bleachers or smoking behind the cafeteria.
Remember in season 1 when she said, maybe I want to vape until my head falls off?
Yes. She's trying. She's working on it. Uh-huh. I love it. This interaction, I'm going to miss this show so much while it's gone. And I think what I'm going to miss the most are these like moments of complete absurdity that are so true to these characters that like I believe it anyway. Mm-hmm. Like Misty walks up to Callie and immediately says, "So Callie, question for you." And Callie says, "This is my school." I love how in who they are, every sentence is. Mm-hmm. She says, "Yeah, that's how I found you here."
Like, obviously it's your school.
Also, it's Misty's school too.
Yeah, great point.
But she says, "Something's been vexing me. Did you put something in my drink?" And Callie looks relieved here.
Yeah, I thought, man, confession is interesting in this show.
But also, like, I think her response, her initial fear was that she was going to talk about Lottie. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, "Oh, it's just the thing I put in your drink. It's just the fact that I drugged you. No big deal." Mm-hmm. And she says, "Yeah, sorry." And Misty says, "That's a devious thing to do, drugging someone without their knowledge." Callie blames it on Shauna being mad that Shauna doesn't want her to talk to Lottie. Mm-hmm. And not weirdly, Misty drugs people all the time. She says, "I can't say that I don't relate to your rationale." I know.
It's so good.
Callie's like, "Thanks." But then Misty drops the hammer. "Did you get the answers you were looking for that night? Or right before you killed her?" Callie.
But when did you know for sure? Was it when Misty asked, or was it directly after when it's all over Callie's face?
Honestly, I knew when Callie looked relieved when Misty asked if it was something she put in her drink. Right. Or that she put something in her drink, because there's no reason for Callie to look relieved that is the confrontation unless she does something worse. Mm-hmm. So, but then, of course, we get Callie's expression, which is all guilt.
Yeah, she tries for like half a second to lie. It's so funny. That's the photo, not the right word, but
yeah. But that's the photo that Misty saw on Lottie's cloned phone.
So, okay. And the picture is not from from
No, it looks like it's from Shauna's house.
And
that night. She's wearing the necklace.
Right, exactly. She still has the necklace on. And so I think the point is that it triggers the thought to Misty, oh, right, this thing about mitochondrial DNA, which I didn't know anything about, but my scientist on retainer said, yes, true. Mm-hmm. It's not the same thing as a partial match, but it's still a DNA thing. Mm-hmm. And that that kind of like triggered that for Misty. But Misty's reaction to seeing the picture in the first place. I think it was
the necklace. Because she didn't see her wearing the necklace. Right. That was a separate night or a separate moment. She wasn't there for that.
That's a good point. And so she then, because she asked Shauna about it a little later, mm-hmm. but so then her seeing like, oh, Lottie marked her.
Yep.
And then that kind of triggered it a little bit more. It just seemed like that picture. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. It's just like, I guess for me, the interesting or the like peculiar thing is that it wasn't really a reveal for us then.
Right. But it was for Misty because she didn't know that Lottie had put the necklace on Callie, as far as I know at that point.
I think you're right because, because Shauna pulls it off in that, that first scene there.
And also, like, if you have known Lottie throughout this entire time in the wilderness and you know what she is capable of and you know how her brain works, and then you see that necklace put on Callie, there's a follow-up to that. That's not the end of it. Right. But I love that this could so read as like unnecessary exposition by the writers, but it's so Misty. She says, doesn't prove anything. And Misty says, DNA does. Mothers and daughters share mitochondrial DNA and apparently homicidal tendencies. And like, Misty's a citizen detective. Of course she knows that mothers and daughters share mitochondrial DNA.
Exactly.
Like, it's for us, but it's also like, that's Misty.
And Misty's getting... For all of the talk we have had about Misty and Walter, and the issue being Walter not realizing that this isn't just a puzzle for Misty, it's not just a puzzle for Misty, but it is a puzzle. That is part of it. So of course she's delighting in it.
She's very satisfied with herself that she's figured this out.
Exactly. And good for her.
I don't blame her. I like being right too. Callie gets all teary. She says, I swear I didn't mean to kill her. It was an accident. No, it was not, Callie, but we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah. So much to talk about. That
we're about to talk about it.
The delivery of the next line. Again, I can't explain it, but it made me laugh out loud. It all started with that tape. Like, it feels so, are you afraid of the dark or something like that?
Absolutely. But just real quick, right before that, she says, Misty says, you haven't told anyone, have you? You'll feel a lot better if you get it off your chest. And that is so Misty being like, okay, tell me. Tell me. I want this information. I can use this.
Exactly.
But no, I so noted. I even wrote in my notes, Callie recounts, because it's literally like, okay, here is the scene.
Right.
I went here, right? She says, after what happened at Lottie's compound, I knew you were keeping the secrets. Then the package showed up, had the symbol on it. She didn't play it. She didn't know how. She's like going through this whole thing. We're seeing little flashes of it. It's like a reenactment in like a true crime thing.
Correct.
Yes. And she says, then her mom kicked Lottie out. We see the tape effect and the tape disappeared. Knew she was staying with her dad in the city, so I went to find her. And then we go to being in the scene versus hearing about the scene. But like that paragraph is all hearing about the scene from Callie's perspective, as if she's telling it to a reporter.
Right. In the same way that we have been saying, I don't mean this in a smug way. I mean it in a little bit of a smug way. But I just mean it in a way when if we get some sort of reveal next season, I'm just going to keep talking about next season like it's
happening. Yes,
it's definitely happening.
Wish it into existence.
Yeah. So if we get some sort of reveal that this is the case, that there is some sort of telling being told here as opposed to just what we're seeing on camera, that it's not out of nowhere, that they have been seeding it from pretty much the beginning. Because we have been saying all along, like, it feels like the wilderness is being told through some extra layer that we're not, haven't been made explicitly aware of yet. But we've been saying that, I think, since season 1.
Well, and even as you brought up recently, we begin the story by hearing it through people reporting their version of it and their take on these students to Jessica Roberts, who's posing as a reporter.
Right, exactly.
Like, she is a private investigator, but she's posing as a reporter for the Star-Ledger. So,
man, okay, so this isn't going to happen because Jessica Roberts is dead. I know that. But what a fun reveal would it be if, like, the last episode of the series is Jessica has written the book, the unauthorized tell-all.
Or we flip to like her on screen with like a New Jersey TV station, just like, well, and that is how it happened, folks. Like, wrapping up her expose on the Yellowjackets.
She's like, and I escaped with barely my life. Good thing that dose was off, like something. Yeah. It's not going to happen, but there's part of me that would love that.
I mean, I feel like we have to say, or maybe we don't, but I'm going to, that we never actually got confirmation that Jessica Roberts died, but she's dead.
She's dead.
We're pretty sure.
But the only person we've seen in a morgue at this point is Lottie. So
yeah, and she sat up. So who knows?
Yep, that's a great point. Really good point.
But she goes into the basement. We go into the basement with Lottie, with the candles and the water. It's the scene from that we've seen in young Lottie's vision when she was under the water, when she was being baptized. But this time, she has met Callie in the lobby of her apartment building, brings her... It's funny, Callie gets there...
Just in time?
Just in time, yeah. Callie gets there, and Lottie comes out of that basement door. Like she's just finished lighting the candles. And there's Callie. And she says, "It's you." God. So they go to the basement and Callie goes, "Oh, what the fuck?
What the fuck?" A little bit of Shauna, a little bit of Shauna's daughter there.
Absolutely. And also full teenage girl. Like, "Oh, what the fuck?" She says, like, "I only came because you stole my tape." And Lottie...
This is so funny. Go ahead.
She holds out the tape. She says, "You mean this tape?" And I wrote, "Yoink." Because she just yoinks it away. Like, nope, can't have it.
Too slow.
Too slow. Exactly. That's it.
I will tell you anything you want. And then Callie
she
breaks
says
my
truth
heart
before
here.
that. Like truth
Right,
or dare.
yes.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And
I know.
Callie breaks my heart here. She says, "Does she just not love me?" My dad says she has PTSD. But the way Lottie reacts to... Lottie's
She's
ready,
so...
disappointed.
Yes.
That
She's
Callie
so
didn't ask her
disappointed
something
that that's
cool.
the question. Yeah. Yep. She goes, "Oh."
It's so good.
It's so funny.
She was really excited to be able to talk about it in the wilderness. It's
funny, but it's also just such a very clear, like, this person is in this world and this other person is not.
Absolutely.
Like, Callie is not in this world with her. Callie is like, "Why doesn't my mom fucking like me?" Like,
right, exactly.
She's so grounded in like her everyday experience of being the child of this crazy psycho person who has no ability to like. And I've gone really far on my like Shauna is psychotic track here, but like it's coming from the perspective right now of what it would be like to be raised by that person. Like, it's not that I don't have any empathy for Shauna as a human. Of course I do. But like, to be raised by that is a whole other thing.
Exactly.
Callie says, "My dad," like you said, "my dad says she has PTSD. She tells me she loves me, but then I look into her eyes and they're just so cold."
Cold.
Yeah. And Lottie says they're like looking straight into the earth, which is like... Okay.
I like Callie here because Callie's like, kind of. Because like, I could see how you could say
her
that.
eyes are brown.
They're cold,
it's like earth.
brown, dark, flat.
Sure.
But Lottie's like, that's it. You're seeing the wilderness in her.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, she says, "You know what it is. It's it. You know, you feel it right now." And it's like, okay, I had a little bit of a moment here. We've talked before about the way this show has dealt with mental health and our discomfort with the ECT scene. This to me is like, Lottie is so clearly, to me, mentally ill here. Like I know that there are people that are full on like the supernatural is real and probably read this as she's right. Like there is an it is there. It's in Callie. Like there are people that agree with Lottie and understand her perspective. To me, all I could see was a very sick woman like scaring a kid in a basement.
I am trying to decide if I want to exercise a little bit of self-disclosure here, because if anybody feels qualified to speak on what it is like to be a young person talking to someone in a mother role with schizophrenia, it's me. And I will say that Lottie's delivery here, Simone's delivery here, feels to me very much like someone who is unwell, scared, paranoid, and really wants someone to believe her.
100%. 100%. And in the spirit of self-disclosure, like my reaction to this is also from growing up with a mother that is mentally ill, not in the same way, but that feeling of like looking for a safe mother figure. Right. And just not having it. And then for Callie to like, man, it's so one more thing about Lottie here. And then I want to talk about Callie a little bit more. It's like I said, you know, looking for someone to believe her, to sort of like confirm her reality for her. Absolutely.
You know, because if Callie says, "You're right, I do feel it," then Lottie's not crazy.
Right. And she's on stable ground again. 100%.
And that's so typical and common of people with, and again, not that this show has done a perfect job representing schizophrenia. I don't want to say that, but this just felt true to me.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of how we felt all along. Like, I can love this show and still be like, I don't know about that ACT scene. Like, I don't love that, as someone who like has had more experience with family members and around mental illness than maybe the average person.
Right.
But so she says, you feel it right now. And she talks about when she saw her holding the gun, when she drugged Misty. And then she starts comparing her to her mother, right? She's talking about this and she says, more than that, it undergirds everything, the pulse of life. It's why we did what we did out there, why we couldn't stop. Callie says, you mean eating each other?
Right.
I love how blunt she is.
The thing she says before that Lottie says is more than that. She's like, you mean like adrenaline?
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
This is the science v supernatural, right, where Callie's like, yeah, man, some people just be chasing adrenaline. Like sometimes some people are like that. I don't know.
Adrenaline, like mass delusion, like trauma, deprivation, starvation, or gases from the mines, all of the other things that we're all like, but it could be that. Mm-hmm. But basically, Callie's starting to get weirded out. Because Lottie starts talking about all those thrilling, terrible things. And Callie's like, excuse me? She says, what's on the tape? And Lottie says, it doesn't matter. It did its job. It brought you to me here. Brought you here to me. Its child. This is where Callie is like, and I'm like, get the fuck out, Callie. Get the fuck out right now.
Right.
Starts going up the stairs.
The way Lottie was talking about the wilderness baby in the first place with Shauna.
And when Lottie and Callie started interacting, we also were talking about the fact that like she just is displacing her feelings about Shauna's child, which were extremely disconcerting to us in the moment, right? Like a stopped clock can be right twice a day. Like Shauna in her own like narcissism is rightfully weirded out by Lottie's interest in her baby.
Exactly. Yep.
But she says, you're the child of that place. It took our baby and it gave us you. Our baby.
Crazy.
Lottie. Good God. Mm-hmm. Callie says, you're freaking me out. My mom was right. You're not well. I shouldn't have come here. She says, you could only have come here.
I know.
I've been waiting 25 years. And she says, she can't love you because she's jealous. You're just like her, but more. And I wrote dead eyes because Callie just Sarah Desjardins, her face in this moment is the transition is beautiful.
Yeah. She really, it's that we've said before, like some of them are really good at sort of like dropping the shades on it. And she's one of them.
She does it here. Yeah. The veil kind of comes down. But I will point out, because I know there's going to be a lot of conversation about like, oh, that means that the darkness is in Callie and blah, blah, blah. And I really felt like Callie did not mimic her mother here to me. She was scared and she got really furious and she acted out of anger, but she immediately reverted back to being a kid. I
thought the same thing. I also think like
she pushes her down the stairs. She does not accidentally like knock her down the stairs. She pushes her.
It's a distinct push. So there's a lot here.
Yeah.
It's a distinct push. Mm-hmm. She does go dark in that moment. Mm-hmm. But again, that doesn't mean that like even when Shauna does it, that's not the darkness. That's not for us, the way we have watched this show.
Yeah.
That's not the wilderness coming through. That's just somebody reacting in fear who has had a lifetime of trauma. Yeah. This is maybe one of like an early moment for Callie in that same thing. So it's not, this doesn't prove.
Right. Like to me, Callie's fate is not sealed here.
Exactly.
Like, Callie is not doomed.
Thank you. You said that much more succinctly.
She's not doomed to be like her mother. She was raised by a woman with severe issues and trauma and an inability to understand how to be a mother.
Right.
And this is probably, hopefully, the worst moment of her life. And she has a choice here. And so do the people in her life to help her go in one direction or another from it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Really well said. There's also something that I don't know if we talk about this here at the end about how this scene is presented to us versus the clues we've gotten about it up to this point.
No. What are you thinking there?
So when Misty goes to investigate, we get the scratches along the wall. Also, Callie's DNA is under Lottie's fingernails. There's not a struggle.
Right.
It is, again, a distinct one hard shove.
Right.
And
although Lottie was holding on to Callie's arm.
Sleeve.
Okay. I didn't clock that. Yeah.
And Lottie, and like Callie doesn't have any, and again, we had Jeff scratches on his hand, blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think this show, people seem to think that the people making the show are not careful, thoughtful, and don't give a shit about continuity. And we get proof that that is not the case in the wilderness pretty soon. And I don't think it's that they included those scenes and then forgot.
No.
Or included those hints and then forgot.
No.
And it is a discrepancy in what we are seeing versus what we were led to believe happened.
Right.
Which is very in line with a lot of the themes we've been talking about lately.
Right.
So I just wanted to draw attention to that.
That's true. Yeah, totally. I wrote she floats down the stairs because we have this like very dramatic shot of her. Mm-hmm. Callie freaks out, cries, sleepwalking plays again. Mm-hmm. She runs down and sounds like a little kid again. She says, "Oh my God, Lottie!" But then she takes the tape. So there's like the child, and then there's the person that it was raised by Shauna.
Right.
You know,
exactly. And she's careful about how she grabs it,
but she's also crying and running up the stairs. You know, and then we realize she's retelling this to Jeff. Exactly. So again, she's telling the story to Misty and then to Jeff. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing in some ways what Callie experienced herself.
And just a reminder, when you access a memory, you're not accessing what actually happened. You're accessing the last time you remembered it. And she has had plenty of time to remember this happening. So when she told Misty, it was not the first time she's thought about it. When she's told Jeff, it's not the second time. Like,
right.
All we know, they're kind of, it's quite possible in these couple of scenes, they're giving us a little example of what the bigger thing going on could be.
Like the iteration of memory over time. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Man, Warren Cole in this scene, he's such a great comedic actor in this show, but I felt his pain so much when he's listening to his daughter. Yeah.
I let out an actual sob at one point, like an audible one, which again, I need everyone to know. You should know by now, unless you're new because you joined us from the Ashley Lyle interview. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Hello.
Thank you for coming back.
Hi.
I am a cry baby. So it's not, but it did. Like I wept.
And I am
him,
not,
like,
but I did not like sob. But this really moved me mainly because when you see someone be such a great comedic presence for most of the show, and in the last episode, he is high with his daughter, flailing around on a bed, talking about how his legs are sexy. Mm-hmm. This moment was like a reckoning for Jeff.
And he's
and he's had so many of them recently, but this was a real reckoning.
Yeah, it feels like a real turning point. And Warren Cole is so restrained here. And we've seen him play big and kind of silly and goofy. Yeah. And it's not the opposite of that. Like he's not
quiet.
Like, exactly.
Yeah, I wrote he looks devastated. Mm-hmm. And she says, "Dad, please say something. You think she was right, don't you? I fucked up just like Mom." And he says no, but it's not enough in the moment because she's not hearing it. She says, "But I am."
She says, "But I am."
And he stands up and he grabs her arms and then he really dials in. He's like, "Okay, no, she needs to hear this more strongly." He says, "You're not at all like her." And she says, "I killed someone." And he says, "It was an accident." Pause.
Well,
you were scared.
And then he says, "You were scared again." Like he's locked into his version of this.
Yep. And she was. Like from our view of it, she was.
I think so.
She's in a basement with candles and a woman who's clearly mentally ill holding onto her arm at the top of the stairs. Like, I would be scared. But she's
not wrong. She did kill someone.
Yes.
She was scared. I'm not saying she wasn't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. She says, "I'm sorry I didn't tell you." And he says, "It's okay. You're telling me now. It took your mom 25 years to tell me 10% of it."
And now it doesn't even seem like it was that much.
Right. And so, we've all along been like, Jeff knows because he read the journals. Mm-hmm. Assuming that Shauna put everything in the journals and assuming that was all of the journals and assuming and assuming and assuming, right?
Well, and I think I got the feeling as soon as they named her Antler Queen, she stopped journaling. Yeah. So the worst of it is after that anyway.
Yeah. I can't imagine her sitting down after like Mari falls in the pit and just be like, so today
well,
we had
also
a chase.
Because I think the journaling was her way of complaining about not about all of her jealous feelings, not getting what she wants.
Yep.
Now she's in power. She doesn't have time for it.
Yeah. Again, it's that Heathers scene that always pops into my head of Veronica journaling about the Heathers. But this is where he got me because he says, I'm sorry I didn't protect you from her. I should have done that. And I wrote in all caps, yes, Jeff. And then I realized it sounded like Tina saying yes, Chef on the bear. And then I got excited that the bear is coming back in June. But that's another thing.
That's pretty soon.
I know.
We're as excited. Close to the beginning of the bear as we are from, is that true? The beginning of the season of Yellowjackets? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, basically. Yeah, it started on February 14th.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, I made a joke because I was so moved by this moment that I don't know what to say about it. Because, yes, he should have fucking protected his child, and he's finally realizing it.
Right. But it is... I don't want to make excuses for Jeff. I know that we are really easy on the men in this show a lot of the time. But it is like, he's been Shauna's husband for 25 years or whatever, like however long. And he has also spent a lot of time justifying the life that they're living. You know what I mean?
And my counter argument is that he has been Shauna's husband for 25 years.
Yeah.
And had that much time to realize that he needed to protect his child from this woman.
Totally.
So, yeah.
But
so we go back to the woods and Van is tending the boiling water or the soup or whatever it is. And we get a quick scene between her and Misty that, again, is setting up that something is going on.
I love that it's in code.
Yes. Misty comes out. I noticed that Akilah was falling asleep sitting up. Misty asks if the water is warm enough yet, and she asks loudly because she's like, "We're doing a caper."
Exactly.
But we find out that the radio is turning on, but it's not quite doing what they want it to do. It still sounds dead. And Misty is like, "Maybe we can try again together." Okay, Misty. But then Akilah. I know. She's crying over the dead animals again, but this time they're actually dead. And I noticed that Ty is the first person to run over to comfort her. I also wrote, Jen looks at Mel significantly.
Yeah. Yep. It is.
There's some significant eye contact happening. Everyone's looking around at each other. She says, it's just like in my vision. They're gone, my babies. And she fooled me the first time.
Me too.
I totally bought it.
I mean, I think she is heartbroken here.
Yes, she is. But also,
I definitely thought it was somebody else.
Yeah. I thought it was Lottie
like
at first.
Jen and Melissa, maybe, for example.
Right, with that eye contact. And she says, how could it let this happen? Natalie hopefully is like, maybe it wants us to leave.
Her line delivery is really good here because she's like, fucking get it together, people. Like,
yeah. Let's get the fuck out. But no. Lottie has a speech. We got too arrogant. It's unhappy with us. We have to prove our faithfulness. It wants blood. And again, Nat with a good point.
Yeah.
They've killed a lot of people already.
Right.
There's been a lot of blood.
I really like, she's like, coach, the scientist, the guide. It's like the plumber, a mailman.
Yeah.
It's like all of these, they're not real people.
What is it? The chef, the thief, the wife and his lover or something? Yeah.
Exactly.
But fucking Mari.
I know.
Stop talking, Mari.
So, whenever I want to be like, it's blah, blah, blah's fault that this thing happened, it's always everybody's fault. Yeah. Because it's like, Mari, you did this sort of to yourself, girl.
I know.
They didn't need but they didn't need her help. This would have happened either way. But like,
right. But we also kind of don't know at this point who is in on the let's get a hunt going because we want to get a hunt going, and who is in the okay, a hunt is happening, let's use this kind of scheme. But Mari says they were all our enemies. And so then Lottie says it's not a real sacrifice unless we cherish it. But I noted that Shauna is now braiding her own hair very well, or Mel is braiding her hair. But Jackie used to braid her hair.
I wrote, who is French braiding Shauna's hair right now?
I know. And Mel, it's not Mel because Mel's mad at her.
Who would be doing this?
I don't know, but
it is so funny. Let's just sit in this for a second, because I thought the exact same thing.
Yeah.
You live with Shauna right now in the time period that they are, where everything is happening that's happening. Mm-hmm. Is Shauna going to one of them and being like, can you
braid my hair?
French braid my hair? And is it just done in dead silence? Are they chatting?
Yeah, it's sort of like everyone's afraid of her, so the thing that she uses that for is to have her hair braided. Like yeah.
Do we think it's Misty doesn't know how to French braid hair, or maybe she does?
I bet she does.
Do you think it's Misty? Who's doing it?
That's such a good question.
It's not Nat.
It's not Nat.
It's not Travis.
No, it's not Travis. I mean, I would have thought, so that the reason I wrote that down is because like Jackie was always the one that knew how to do those things. Mm-hmm. Shauna didn't know how to put on makeup. Shauna didn't know how to do her hair. Like, it was always Jackie.
Yeah. I also don't think she's French braiding her own hair, right?
Well,
That's hard to do.
But it's hard, yeah. Anyway, side note. Her hair
I don't think it's a side note. I think it's so important.
Okay, good. Because I wrote it down.
I just have no idea who it could be.
I know.
It makes no sense.
Maybe it's one of the red shirts.
Or I guess Lottie. Could be one of the red shirts.
I bet Lottie does a really nice braid. I could see her and Lottie.
Totally. And I could see her and Lottie having an uneasy, weird little...
Well, they're doing it right here. Not to use this to transition us back to the actual recap, but like they're doing it here because Lottie is saying these things. Shauna sees that this dovetails with things that would help her, right? And so she says that she agrees. She says, I agree. We have to do it right this time. We have to show the wilderness our respect. And again, Lottie thinks that Shauna believes in the wilderness. I don't think that Shauna believes in the wilderness.
No.
But Shauna sees the opportunity here.
Exactly. And it goes back to what we were just talking about, or rather, what we were just talking about points back to this, where Lottie is talking to Callie and trying to get Callie to be the Shauna of this. And the only reason she even thinks that she can is because Shauna pretended to.
Yeah.
And fueled this with Lottie.
Absolutely.
So it's all...
But man, this next bit, Nat says I'm out, and Shauna, the way she says Natalie here.
Man, it's so good.
There's a couple of moments here where Sophie and Elise is channeling like the worst high school bully that you've ever faced.
Yes.
And it is chilling.
Yes.
It is absolutely chilling. And this is filmed as like almost like a face-off between Nat and Shauna, but Lottie is on Shauna's flank. And Van is kind of on Nat's flank, but kind of off to the side and in the background.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah,
her voice
Natalie
there.
does the mental math here. Yeah, because it's so...
yeah.
Because you can hear it's packed with like, you know what'll happen.
Mm-hmm. It's taunting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But Natalie does not say anything else. Shauna asks if there's any other objections, and then no one says anything, of course, because she's fucking terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, good, we'll draw in the morning. And they're all kind of gathered around at this point. And so Shauna walks off in one direction and Lottie starts to walk off in the other. And I just thought that was an interesting sort of visual sort of analog to what is happening psychologically.
More, yeah.
Like they're the two that are in charge, but they're also sort of not in the same area mentally about it. Van and Ty are having a conversation about this now. They're off by themselves. And this is just such a quick scene that just does so much to kind of show us why there is a divide between them. Because, like, Ty, I understand why Ty wants to do this, right?
Yeah.
She's claiming, like, that she's not anti-wilderness deciding, but also that they need to keep each other safe. Ty says we're not leaving it to chance this time, and Van says, I thought that was the point. And I said, yes, Van, it was the point. The wilderness decides. And Ty mentions that they did it before. Van's like, yeah, with shit bucket duty.
Exactly.
But so they decide basically that they're going to try to set up Hannah because she's not one of them.
It's so funny to hear them say, Van says, these are our friends, these are our teammates. And it's like, oh, yeah, I guess so.
I guess.
Sure.
It's the kind of like friends thing that is like a person you've known for like your whole life that you kind of hate, but you've known them for so long that you can't, like, that's the only word you have for them.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
There's a Mountain Goats song. I don't bring up the Mountain Goats enough on this show, but it's called Game Shows Touch Our Lives, and there's I handed you a drink of the lovely little thing on which our survival depends. People say friends don't destroy one another. What do they know about friends? It's just like, well,
yeah. So, like, one of the big sticking points for me, and I think for us when we talked about this split in the two groups, was what happens with Van and Ty. Because they're clearly on opposite sides of this tactically and, like, emotionally, but they are a couple and they love each other. And so this is sort of being played out here because Ty says, if you or I die, will we really congratulate ourselves on following the rules? And Van says, I guess not. But her face is like, this is where I was like, she's still going to go ahead with this plan. Like, she is going to say one thing to Ty and she's going to do another thing. And that is significant. But this is then interrupted with Shauna coming home to an empty house. And I just have to point out that mid-century piece in the hall, all I could think about was Ashley's comment about how they made the house nicer than they had wanted to and the set dressing, because that entryway sort of bench / storage credenza.
Yeah. It's not one she's passed down like through her family. You know what I mean? It's not one that's
a beautiful piece.
Yeah, that's so funny. I noticed it too, because it is really beautiful, and it is juxtaposed with that paneling that I did grow up with. Yes. That wood paneling entryway. We had it all over my house. And I was like, I wonder if Ashley in her head justifies it by being like, oh, well, she's just had that.
Paneling. Yeah.
Well, yeah, there's still wood paneling in that piece, but it's like clearly like been lovingly.
They bought it at Flux Modern in Asbury Park.
Exactly.
Yeah. Shout out to Flux Modern in Asbury Park, actually. They're
now that you mention it,
if you are in the market for mid-century furniture, this is a free ad for Flux Modern, because Drew and Danielle are very cool and they have great stuff.
Even if you aren't in the market, but you do like looking at it, it's a
their
great
Instagram is
follow.
So great.
Really
I know.
Good.
He does before and afters of the furniture. It's great. Okay,
good
anyway.
Stuff.
I love mid-century furniture. But the point of this scene is not actually the beautiful piece of furniture. It is the fact that she has come home and her family has disappeared. Her closet is empty, and she tries to call Callie, and they've already disconnected her number. And I again wrote in all caps, yes, Jeff.
Finally, doing it all the right way too.
Yes.
Disconnect the number.
Yep.
Leave while she's gone.
Yep.
Pack all the stuff.
Exactly.
Don't give her a chance.
Yeah. And so the reason I like that we're doing this not timeline wise this time is because of transitions and moments like this. Because we go from Shauna and her face as she realizes that Callie's phone is disconnected to teen Shauna sleeping in the hut. Lottie calling her from the doorway, and she goes outside and it's started snowing and we know what's about to happen this day. And so it's like consequences, action instead of action, consequences, you know? But like you said earlier, I think that snow is the snow that started with the night before with Natalie.
I think so too. Also, man, Shauna can just sleep anytime, huh? Would you be able to sleep the night before a hunt?
I can't sleep even with blackout shades, an eye mask, AirPods, whatever. I can't sleep.
I'm just jealous.
Also, they have another nice shot of Joel McHale's replica head, this time with snow on it. I love that that's how we, like, it's the, when you put the ruler in the ground to see how much snow there is, like how much snow is on Joel McHale's head.
But it's Winger's head,
is our guide for how much snow has fallen. But they all gather.
So what we do know is from the season 2 finale, when they're shuffling the cards, it's Lottie's got the deck and Shauna says, like, I'd like to shuffle those some more. And she can't shuffle, as we see.
No.
Which it feels very un-Jersey of her to not be able to shuffle a deck of cards, but I also can't shuffle. So that's like a shortcoming on my part as well. I just want to confess, and I want to be transparent with our listeners. I don't know how to shuffle.
My brother taught me on a camping trip when I was 10 at Harriman State Park. So
so that's where you have to learn. That's I've just never.
You have to have a older half brother who's like 16 years older than you that is stuck in a tent with a 10-year-old in the rain, and you play Uno for hours.
Yeah, my half brother is only 10 years older than me, so that must be why.
That's why, yeah.
But so that makes sense. But so she says, like, I'd like to shuffle them some more. And in my memory, for some reason, it was Van shuffling and then Shauna taking them. And that made a kind of sense to me because I was like, oh, she knows that Van has stacked the deck. But Shauna's paranoid enough as an adult that she might think Lottie has done it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely a thing that has been done in this group.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And as we'll learn soon, Shauna knows that. It's also interesting, Van is the one who kind of like puts a stop to it. And I am struck by that because I remember at the time being like, oh, Van really wants this hunt to start. Is how it felt.
Right. But now we think, I mean, to me now that reads as Van is the one that stacked the cards before and maybe is wondering if Shauna is trying to do the same thing because Shauna is moving those cards around so awkwardly that it's almost comedic.
Right. And so it's also, remember Van's the one who calls off the Van and Ty are the ones who call off the wellness check on Lottie.
Yeah, totally. So
anyway.
Yeah, no, but I think it's interesting that season 2 finale kind of calls back to this. So they all gather and Lottie and Shauna look like it's Christmas morning. They're both quite happy about what's happening.
They're not even trying to pretend like they aren't.
No, they're just outright smiling about it. And Van is like, her eyes are red. She's obviously been crying. She says, should I? And Shauna says, you can start. And pretty much immediately, I feel like Shauna clocks something is up. She's like hyper aware.
Van like does a bad job of hiding it, the sleight of hand of it, which is like, yeah, she's a teen girl in the woods. She's not a fucking magician.
Right.
So,
yeah, she's been practicing, but she's also had other things on her mind. I also noted, so Van goes to Misty first. Misty pulls a card. It's not the queen. And Shauna like rolls her eyes that it's not Misty.
I know.
So rude.
Yeah.
But then Misty takes the cards, goes to Van, then Nat, then Lottie, then Ty. And this whole time Shauna's like getting more and more antsy about it. And after, when she's right about to go to Ty, I believe, Shauna steps forward and steps in between Ty and Mari.
Do you think I think she's done the math of it. She's assumed that they're going to pull Hannah because that makes the most sense and has done the worst math that she could do for me.
Yeah. I think it's totally, I don't know necessarily that that's the case, but that wouldn't surprise me if she had already kind of clocked all of that and figured out that if they were going to ring the cards, it would make sense that it would be Hannah. And then kind of looking around and being like, oh, if I step in, it will be Mari, who I hate. So
exactly.
And it is.
That was my feeling anyway.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. Ty tries to talk her out of it, but it does not work. She says, I trust whatever it wills, you fucking liar.
Also, again, Shauna being funny. How'd you get into AP stats?
Right.
It doesn't change the odds.
Yeah.
I mean, she's right, but yeah.
Well, it doesn't change the odds if it's actually random.
Exactly.
Yeah. But she's totally challenging them here. And then Mari pulls the queen.
Tough break, Mar.
I know. And Van, so rude.
So
literally
rude.
like about the fact that we're about to hunt and probably kill you. Tough break. She says, take off your cape. She puts the necklace on her. And this is where, and she starts counting with like this really, the same tone of voice that she had when she said Natalie. Earlier on. I give Mari credit. No one has tried to really take Shauna down in any significant way, like physically, when they definitely could have, but they're so scared and like weirded out that they don't want to try. But Mari lunges at Shauna, tries to get the knife.
Yeah.
Which
I'm
good
gonna
for
give
her.
it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah. So
at least
but it
you tried.
work.
And I'm thrilled here. I'm not really. I knew, but I'm like, oh, windbreaker, not a nightgown.
I know. I was holding on hope for so long.
I know.
But then, so Shauna, because she has to struggle with Mari, stops counting, and Lottie picks it up.
With like a smile.
And Shauna like laughs because she's like, all right, we're in this together. That's what's so interesting here, because like the larger alliances have, like we've said before, these little mini groups of two in them that keep changing. And so right now it's Shauna and Lottie, but in the past it's been Shauna and Ty, you know? And then it's Van and Ty. So Akilah,
this
Melissa,
one is it just bums me out so much because it is these two deeply broken girls and one of them fully knowingly manipulating the other, and
yeah, and the other one unintentionally manipulating everyone because she really believes what's happening.
Or at least I should say not unintentionally. She is also intentionally manipulating people, but it's because she does believe in what's happening.
So Lottie's counting. Mari says to Shauna, "You deserve everything that's coming to you," which I thought was nice considering what's happening in the present time. Mm-hmm. Travis is drinking berry wine as they gather their weapons and costumes. But then, I love this so much. Travis stops Shauna, and Shauna says, "If you're not going to hunt, don't get in my way." And Travis says, "None of this is real, you know."
Real, you know.
I knew we had to get a "none of this is real" moment in this episode.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Shauna says, "Do you want to make it 2 for 2 with your brother?"
Jesus Christ.
I know. But then, this was my favorite Travis moment.
So good.
He's drunk. He's probably on shrooms. And he says, "Do you ever wonder whose reality we're in? I'm pretty sure that some of my thoughts are Javi's thoughts. My favorite thoughts are Jackie's. The slumber party makeouts. Jealousy, betrayal." The slumber party makeouts is so funny to me.
Yeah.
Because you can read this as like he's actually hearing Jackie's thoughts. They ate Jackie. They ate Javi. The body ingestion, the spirit, all of that. Or you can think about
teen boy.
He's
wish
a teen
fulfillment.
boy. And honestly, it would not surprise me one bit if there were rumors going around that high school that Jackie and Shauna were like secret girlfriends because they were so close. Mm-hmm. So you can see it either way. But Lottie protects him from Shauna and says, "It's not him. Go hunt."
Ty kind of like backs Travis off of Shauna. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was interesting that she's sort of protecting or whatever, like getting in the middle there. And then Lottie jumps in, and then she's the one who tells Sean and Ty to go hunt, and they listen to Lottie. Yeah. Like, it's just the way power kind of moves around these people is interesting.
And she's, and Lottie is still protecting Travis in a way. Mm-hmm. I think that even though he kind of tried to kill her last episode, like, she still thinks of him as one of her people, one of her acolytes.
Right. Yes, I think so too.
So Mari takes off, still in her windbreaker. And I was like, don't leave that on.
No.
But thankfully we have a little break from the chaos here with a Misty moment. I love how they're calibrating our reactions because we go from like this super intense moment to Misty cleaning Caligula's cage when Shauna shows up.
Getting rid of that
sign from Walter. Sign. But she opens the door, sees Shauna, and just walks away from the door. her disdain is great.
Yeah, it's like you said, she's so done with Shauna.
I know.
It makes me so happy. Finally, only took them 25 years.
I know. She says, "You should know that every corner of this house is recorded and sent to a remote location." Mm-hmm. And Shauna is like still blaming literally everyone but herself.
So Shauna here.
What did you do to my
family?
I know. It's like, Shauna.
And it's so funny when she says what happened, because like Missy's like, "What?" And she's like, "They're gone. They checked out of the hotel, and now none of their stuff is in our house. And Callie's phone is disconnected."
Right.
This is funny because Shauna's funny. And I know that neither of them would ever know how to contact the phone company, which is funny, haha. But it's also like, so in your mind,
they're completely, they're incompetent idiots that depend on you for everything.
And I mean, like, going back to watch the pilot where like Callie doesn't take the meat out of the freezer and she's literally washing like skid marks out of Jeff's pants. Like, I get that that's, but
totally.
It's just so funny that she hears all of that, and the story she's telling herself is that Misty went to them, checked them out of a hotel, helped them pack their bags, and helped them disconnect their phones.
Yeah, it's all Misty's fault.
Right. And because she, or I shouldn't say helped them, did it to them. What did you do to my family?
Right.
That it was, this action is something nefarious that Misty has done.
Right. Because it couldn't possibly be that her own family is actually like done with her bullshit. Misty says, "I never thought Jeff had it in him." Please don't tell me you're blaming yourself. The shock of you taking responsibility for your actions might give me a stroke.
Give me a stroke. So
funny.
Good. So
I love, like, looking back now, I've said this a bunch, but looking back now from this viewpoint of the finale of the 3rd season, the transition from like who we kind of root for and care about from then to now is so funny to me, because now I'm like, yeah, Misty, fucking get her.
That's right.
So she tells her, you know, you knew she gave Callie the necklace. You had the info. Shauna's still not getting it. And she says, your daughter murdered Lottie. She confessed to it, Shauna. Like she's in jail?
Jail?
No. And of course not. She put it on the cookie.
That's right. That's right.
I strongly recommend it against involving law enforcement. It's a very big cookie. I did encourage her to talk to her dad.
So nice.
Shauna says it was none of your business, but Misty says, well, she was desperate for someone to talk to and you were busy eating your ex-girlfriend's arm.
I love Misty. I love Misty.
Well, and we talk about the self-awareness, right? About how she's actually weirdly the most well-adjusted one in the adult timeline in a way, because she's not denying anything.
Right. Because she can see that that's fucked up.
Yeah. And that she's, you know, she says to Shauna, like, it's almost like she's been lacking strong examples in the friendship department. And then Shauna tries to turn it on Misty, and Misty's like, well, yeah, okay. Maybe I am as messed up as you are, you know? Mm-hmm. Maybe that's why I didn't believe Walter. She brings up Walter.
And then I love this because Shauna clocks it immediately. Mm-hmm. She says Walter knows because she's building a list of people who she has to kill now.
Her hit list.
And Misty protects him.
Yeah.
She like, by like bragging, she's like, I figured it all out on my own.
Yep. I love that it's like a way for her to protect him, but also talk herself up at the same time.
Exactly. But I thought it was worth noting to me that she did protect him in that moment.
Yeah. And then she tells her to leave and says, as dim a view I have of the Waskaic PD, I am not above calling for a restraining order.
I love the idea of Shauna being brought down by a restraining
order.
If anybody had
if anyone had thought to do that.
Yeah. So then it's the hunt, basically, right?
Yeah.
So like the first thing I noticed is that Mari takes note of her jacket. Mm-hmm. And it's and so as that's happening, Shauna is getting more and more paranoid about what's going on.
Yeah. Yep.
She says, like, she says something's weird.
Yeah, something's weird. Stay close. So Mari's trying to distract. And you start to realize, or at least I did on rewatch, you start to realize that there are people working to slow this down, to distract, to pull this, like, kind of pull pieces away from the normal way this might work so that it slows everything down.
Isn't it funny that people are like giving, or there are people who are trying to give Mari, not funny, but we haven't really seen them work against the hunt before. I know it was a totally different set of circumstances, but like they were all we saw them become like kind of pack animals that time. And this time some of them sort of do. Like we see Shauna when she does that howl. It's very like play acting.
And they're all yelling and making those noises and stuff.
Yeah. But the fact that some of them are strategizing on ways to kind of give Mari a shot, I think is...
to slow it down. Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of struck by that.
Yeah. So after that, Ty and Shauna are starting to have a little bit of tension because Ty says they're trying to follow some tracks, and Ty says it might not even be her tracks. And Shauna gets suspicious of Ty and tries to step to Ty. And you don't fucking do that, because she says, I know you fucked with the draw who was supposed to be the queen. Stop lying to me. And Ty looks her dead in the eye and says, if you know what's good for you, you'll back up.
Back up. And Shauna does. She pretends like she's not afraid, that it's because they're losing time. But it is really satisfying to see somebody who could stand up to Shauna and to see Shauna back down. Because like,
Jasmine
Melissa tried.
But Jasmine also does the eyes thing here where the veil drops. And that's when Shauna's like, oh, fuck.
Shauna's like, well, we don't fuck with that, Ty.
No, absolutely not. At the same time, part of the reason all of this distraction is happening is because Nat's going to get the phone.
Right.
Hannah sees her, follows her. At the same time, Jen is trying to pull Ty away and, like, you know, break up this Ty-Shauna, like, chase that's happening. So Jen tells Ty that Van's hurt. Jen is not very convincing. Jen is not a good liar.
No. Some of these girls aren't really made for this level of duplicity. I don't know.
Yeah.
Mari, it happens before this where we actually see Mari become Pit Girl.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because we've all speculated, like, why was that girl just in a nightgown? Like, it's the middle of winter. Maybe they must have found other shelter. Maybe she came from the caves and it's not one of them.
Yeah,
maybe it's
she's
in the
just trying to blend in.
Yeah, she's being smart. So that's a Jersey sense kicking in. She takes off her windbreaker. And the reason she's barefoot. Yeah, the reason she's barefoot is she was trying to take her pants off, but she was in a panic, and they were coming, so she didn't have time. And I think if the move is be stuck and have them catch you or run barefoot, obviously you're not going to last too long barefoot, but you've got a little bit more of a chance. Maybe she thought she could get to the caves. Who knows?
Right.
But this is when. In my, obviously, I know I've been saying all along, or not all along, but,
I know.
But I still was like, maybe Hannah? Maybe?
I was holding on to hope every step of the way.
I know.
Even though I kind of
step of the way. Did you say that already?
Yeah. But that does work because Ty kind of calls Shauna's bluff and was like, fine, then come with us. And Shauna would much rather hunt someone than try to care for Van. So.
And that's, Shauna lets out that howl.
Yeah. Nat confronts Hannah because she sees she's being followed. And this is when we're not sure at the moment. I was like, don't trust this bitch. But this is when I think Hannah and Nat start to work together because Hannah says, I'm on your side, I swear. And Nat says, you're on everyone's side. Good point.
That's, really clear-headed about that.
But this was such a good line. I came out here to study frogs. Instead, my boyfriend got axe murdered. I stabbed our guide in the brain. I've eaten human flesh. I'm just trying to survive. You have to believe me. Fair point. We get a quick flash of Aquila going into the cave before we go back to Shauna seeing Mari's little deception.
I wrote, what's your deal, girl? I wasn't sure what Aquila was up to here.
I wasn't until we find out, that this was obviously, they were going to plan this. Lottie's praying in the cave. And we talked about this earlier. This is when she says, I'm not afraid. Whatever you need, I'll give you freely, blah, blah, blah. And Lottie says to Aquila, I know how much it must have hurt to do what you did.
My stomach dropped.
I know. And we got the tape effect.
Yep.
We see a shot of Aquila mixing the poison, sobbing over the goat. Again, the tape effect happens. Back to Aquila in the cave saying, you made me believe that I could see things. Travis told me the truth. And Lottie's denying it, saying the visions came true. And then Aquila grabs a rock and says, I think this is all your fault. And Lottie kneels with her back to her and says, this place is in us now. It will come with us. We go to Aquila's face, and that's the last we fucking see of Aquila.
Aquila, that's right.
In this whole episode. And there was so much after this, I didn't even clock that at first until I watched it again. Yeah. And I was like, wait, where did she go?
Where the hell's Aquila?
Yeah. Where the fuck is Aquila?
She's in that cave.
Yeah.
Her body, I mean.
Uh-huh. The cave with the gas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Lottie put an axe in the back of a stranger's head. So Lottie would do anything at this point.
Mm-hmm. And what do we think Aquila's goal is with all of this? Because
I don't know. I think
do you think this is just anger?
Yeah, I kind of do.
So she's kind of getting into the shit by helping to spur a hunt, or
that's the thing I'm not as clear on, is why she was wanting to spur on the hunt and willing to work with Lottie to do that. Because clearly she's also mad at Lottie.
Right. Is it because she also, the hunt kind of proves it's a distraction for Nat, but that's plan
the thing.
only...
We don't know exactly who is in on this and who isn't.
Right.
Right.
And especially because the plan only works because of Nat and Hannah, which clearly wasn't part of the plan in the first place. And so it's really...
Yeah. I mean, I think the main plan was to distract so Nat could go get the phone and leave with it. And then the Hannah thing just kind of helped, I guess, extend it because
that makes sense.
We didn't see that Nat was gone right away.
Right. And so in that case, I'm like, well, if Akilah thought doing it would get them home, and now she's at a point, because before she was, you know, because she sabotages the first rescue by leaving the trail, but she was still thinking that Lottie was telling her the truth and that she was actually having visions at that point. She was still a little more on the fence, I think, at least. And I'm still
kind of confused, to be honest. And I don't want to come down one way or the other on where she is in this, because I don't think that I know yet where I believe she landed. Because I think there's so much that happens so quickly in this, chase scene that I almost want to, go back and, map everything out. Behind the curtain, we're recording this Saturday
morning. Yeah.
Saturday morning. So it's I've watched the episode twice. I've read the transcript. I've done a lot of research, but there's still things that occur to you weeks after when things start to fall into place. So I'm open to future interpretations of what Akilah's doing here. But this next bit is when I knew, because Mari falls, her foot is bloody, and she takes off, and we see the bloody footprint. And this is when you start to have the interspersed scenes from the pilot, almost, because we see that cross in the tree.
Yeah, so they are, if you haven't recently watched the pilot, they are painstaking, is the word that Bart used in some interviews I read, recreations. This is why when I said the thing earlier that it's the show, it's not that they're lazy about continuity, and that's why sometimes stuff doesn't match up. Because this is shot for shot, but with Mari. Alexa even talks about watching the pilot and matching that girl's run, and they were really thoughtful about this.
Yeah. We get the reveal with that Jen's ruse was actually a ruse, because she and Ty run into Van. And Jen says, Mari's my friend. I was just trying to give her a fighting chance.
Yeah.
And Van is sweet. She might still get away. And I was like, I want her to, but she's not going to. Meanwhile, fucking Mel.
I know.
She's trying to slow Shauna down. She takes her out with she should have played softball.
Yeah, right.
Takes her out with a stick.
Well, because Melissa and Mari were they friendlier? It doesn't matter. She hates Shauna and is looking for an excuse. But I'm trying to decide if there's anything that isn't just self-serving about this here.
She and Jen, I think, is what it comes down to. Jen was her closest friend, it seems, in the group before this, and Jen is fully on fuck Shauna team. So I feel like at this point Mel has said whatever it is, I'm with you guys. Mari runs into Lottie at the same time, and Lottie says, do you see where we are? You've already been here. You've been here already, Mari. You could let it be different.
This is interesting because does Lottie...
I know. This is another one. I'm like, what does she mean? You could let it be different. Does she know the pit's right there? She probably does.
Okay. So what I think I'm pretty positive what she's saying is, or what she could have said was, hey, Mari, there's the pit. Now it's got spikes in it.
Yeah.
You fell in this pit before. Get your shit together. She doesn't say that. She says some cryptic wilderness lady shit. But is it because I know you can't answer this, and I am wildly speculating, but my thought is maybe Lottie knows, or Lottie feels like if Mari falls into a pit and dies, it doesn't count. And by saying you could let it be different, you could
let them kill you.
Yeah.
Because Shauna does seem disappointed that it's a pit and not somebody actually killing her.
Right. And because there's no reason that Lottie would want to help Mari escape.
No, she wants the sacrifice.
Yeah. And so that's my...
Yeah. That's to me the best explanation that I can come to right now. But Marty says, oh my God, fuck off. I love that that's her last words. Perfect last words for Mari. Thank you, Alexis Barajas, for all of your service.
She's been so good. She just R.I.P.
She made us love her. But then we get that recreation. She runs through the trees, falls in the pit. Lottie is glaring at her, and then she touches the eye on the tree.
Mm-hmm. And even, surveillance, that one of the first symbols we see in the woods is not just the...
It's the eye.
It's the eye. Even maybe not before we see the, like, cabin daddy symbol or whatever.
I think it might be first. I could go back and look at my notes from the pilot, but I think it is first.
It's interesting.
Right after this, we go back to Mel and Shauna struggling. Shauna pulls off her mask. We see that it's Mel, and then the horn blows. And Shauna says, that's the horn. It's over. And Mel says, not for me, it isn't. And she tries to choke her, but she can't do it. I wish she'd had that same
I know
moment of clarity with Van.
I know. Well, it's funny because it is a little bit of an echo there because Van says, why can't I be that? Which Melissa couldn't be back then.
Right.
And she says, you don't want to be, but I do. And she's, exactly, that parallel. And then,
but instead,
Shauna. So she falls back, lets Shauna up. You turn out to be boring.
Oh, God. Such a fucking kid.
She's so
But they
funny.
walk up to the edge of the pit and we get the Converse scene echoing the pilot. Van. Yep.
Now we've got it confirmed.
Yep.
That's kind of fun. It really was satisfying. Like, you and I haven't really cared that much about these. Like, I shouldn't say I haven't cared.
But it's like all these puzzle pieces falling into place, you know?
It's just very satisfying.
Yeah. And, like, we see Mari's finger twitch and Van walks away. And I just want to mention something here that I've seen some people complaining about. And I don't want to, I'm not harping on the fact that they're complaining about it because they have a right to feel the way they feel. But some people don't like the fact that this vision of this pack of feral girls that we were promised in the pilot ends up being actually a group of a few feral girls and a lot more that are not participating necessarily voluntarily and are upset about it and are traumatized and trying to use it as a way to plan an escape. And I love that. I think it takes it from like this sort of false movie version of what this scene would have been to like a much more nuanced version of it.
And it is also so much more in line with this conversation we've been starting to build where it's like, oh, did the people watching want this to be this salacious, awful thing about these terrible...
violent,
Yeah, and it is in some ways.
Yeah.
But it's also so much more than that. And there's it's, again, over and over again about expectations, what the dark part of us is wanting and what we're let down by. And
I think that's why I said one of the reasons I said I found this satisfying, because if they had just kind of note for note recreated that scene from the pilot and everyone was in and everybody was like running like, you know, wild, crazy, you know, animals, it wouldn't have been as interesting as if...
What does that give us?
It doesn't give us anything new.
In the woods. We already sort of know that.
Yeah, it reframes what we thought we were going to get in a way that says, yes, you are getting this, but...
Right. And it's it's just like every time we revisit something, it should be a little different.
Yeah, it's got to shift a little bit because we're learning more as we go.
Exactly. It's so funny because the first time we see it, all we know is this is the teen cannibal show.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about that too, where it's like they, you know, the big reveal that it's Mari, the quote unquote, you know, whatever, and the puzzle, the like mystery of not knowing that girl's face. But it's so funny because it like, the first time we see that scene, it wouldn't have mattered anyway because we didn't know who any of those girls were. So you know what I mean? And it's just...
Yeah. No, it's just a much richer and more textured and nuanced version of the same thing. Because we now know these girls. We also now know that initial scene of them all running through the woods, some of them are running because they want to kill someone and some of them are running because they're trying to distract someone from killing someone.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And some of them are running because they think they don't have a choice.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
And one of them is running to get a sat phone that we didn't know was there.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
We briefly jump back to the present with adult Ty talking to someone we can't see.
You and I fucked up so bad.
What do you mean?
How did we not talk to Ashley Lyle about the diner scenes on this fucking show?
Oh, I know. We didn't have enough time.
Yeah, that's true.
There were so many things that I thought of after the fact where I was like, oh, we should have brought that up. But the diners were definitely one of them.
We'll have to have her back on.
Yeah. Because at first I didn't think Ty was in a diner, or at least not a traditional Jersey diner. And then the scene of the two of them facing each other totally mirrors the scene of her and Shauna.
Yeah. And there's the jukebox.
Yeah. Yeah, but I didn't see that, like, right away.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it didn't register to me as quote unquote diner. But then when I saw that shot that mirrored the one of her and Shauna, I was like,
so funny that, as we've said since that first diner scene, like, the place you go when you need to have a serious conversation in New Jersey, where you don't have to worry about people trying to overhear you who don't give a shit, and also where you feel safe to return to.
Yeah.
It's a diner. And
Misty has ascended into Shauna's place in the trusted circle.
Yeah, and I don't know, they set it up like there's
the
going to
circle's
be
shrinking, but
yeah, it's a line at this point, but they shoot it like it's going to be a big reveal.
Yep.
And I love that it's again over and over again. It's Occam's raisin. It's the most.
I love that there are people joining us for the first time, probably after the Ashley Lyle interview, that are hearing us say things like Jersey tomato and Occam's raisin and have no idea that these have been a part of this podcast just forever, because we say things sometimes dumb ways.
Right. And that,
and that Tawny Cypress is a gem.
I started trying to defend, I got ready to defend myself and say, like, I know it's Occam's razor. And then I thought, don't do that.
Yeah.
Just let it be. It's
just
fine.
Let it be.
They can think you're an idiot.
Occam's raisin. It's a new thing. We've decided. But it's funny, at first when you don't see it's Misty, I was trying to figure out who it was. For some reason, it didn't occur to me that it would be other Ty, but a lot of people mentioned that they thought it would be. Oh. And theoretically, she's been integrated, so it shouldn't be.
Right.
But that would make sense because she's kind of hidden.
Yeah, if she hadn't been integrated,
right.
If they didn't have that big fight, and
Dr. Raghavi hadn't helped her.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the moment where the two sides come together.
Right.
I might have liked that.
Sitting across a table at a diner.
At a diner. I might have liked that. But I like that it's Ty and Misty. I also just love thinking about the fact, like, this is probably the diner they went to after every dance that they went to after every
soccer
movie.
game. Yep.
Like Ty probably said, meet me at the diner, and Misty didn't have to ask which one.
Of course. Yeah, 100%. But I noted here, as much as I love seeing Ty finally get tired of Shauna's shit, Ty is doing what Shauna does. She's blaming everything on someone else.
Yes.
The worst of what we went through, she fueled it. She thrived on it. Yeah, true. But, ma'am, you were not innocent.
It's true for all of them. Because it's like, she did thrive on it. But it was your idea to stack the deck, which is what led Shauna. And there's just, like, nobody here, except my girl Mari. I'm joking. I know that she's done her fair share. But, like, nobody in this group is innocent.
Right.
And it's also, at this point... Like, is it even, I mean, it is. I was going to say, is it even worth it to be pointing fingers at this point? Because it's like...
Yeah, no, they're all guilty. And, like, she's not wrong. She says she keeps her journals in a place her husband can find them. She murdered her lover. She mutilated her ex. Yeah. All true. Also, Ty.
Yeah. Hey, Ty,
ma'am.
You cut your dog's head off. And hold on. And got your wife in a car accident that put her in a coma.
Almost killed her.
On purpose.
Uh-huh. Yeah. They're all complicit.
It really, if we tallied up, this might be a fun thing to do in the
body count.
Body count, and just also, like, if we, like, you and I should fantasy football league style, without thinking too hard about it, pick our person who we think is going to be the most devious.
Yeah.
And then we can assign point values to things like, murder, theft.
Are you trying to turn this into an RPG? Is that what you're trying to do?
I just want to gamify everything. But I don't think we should play as them. I just think we should do a tally.
Okay.
And see who the most devious is.
I mean, honestly, a Yellowjackets RPG is could be very interesting, but
don't tempt me, because you would play, the way you would do it is they would all be NPCs and you would be your own character who crashed with them.
Right.
Would be the fun way to do that.
Okay, I need to move on before you
and
actually
all of your
create
stats
this.
would be like soccer stats that then translate into the woods. So if you're like a really good kicker, you know.
Yeah, I don't know anything about soccer, so unfortunately we can't do this.
You know how you know? Because my only
you said
skill
kicker?
was kicker.
Kicking?
If you're really good at kicking.
Yeah. No, nothing about soccer.
So if we have any game designers who want to write a one sheet for us.
Perfect.
Okay, hold on. This is real. This is very real. Jodie, I need you to step out of the room maybe for a minute because you can't disagree with me. If you are good at this and can actually write us a one sheet that we could, and can write us a one shot of how we would play this. It's got to be pretty simple mechanics because Jodie is very new to the genre in general and I've never actually played. You can come run it on the podcast with us. We get to pick our teammates, but you can run it. We'll do 1 to 2 episodes, but it's got to be a one shot of Yellowjackets in the woods, an RPG that we can play.
I cannot believe I let you get to this point.
That's real.
I cannot believe I maybe even started this conversation.
Hey, Jodie.
Andrea?
What are my initials? What are my initials?
AQ.
Who's running this ship?
Oh my God. Yeah, turns out Andrea's ascendant.
I've been here the whole
time. Did you watch it?
Yes, I have.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So good.
Anyway.
So finally she asks, who we now know is Misty. She's going to end up being the last one standing, and I don't want that. Do you? And Misty says, no, I definitively do not. And then...
okay, hold on. I want to...
Okay,
I really want to... I'm so excited. But...
Walter in the car with Slayer?
Oh my God. Okay, but that's not... Okay. To me, there's a universe where Ty and Misty... They're the only two, for some reason, I could see reaching a truce where they get rid of Shauna and then the two of them just leave each other alone.
Yeah. Well, honestly, like the two of them
we still have
were
Melissa to worry about, but
yeah. But like, I mean, Ty was making stupid mistakes to bring attention to the group, but like she was trying to still keep everything under wraps. Mm-hmm. And Misty was just working in a nursing home, probably abusing elderly patients, but also not, engaging in cannibalism as far as we knew.
Yeah, it does. If we really had to trace it back, I think Ty is the one who really kicked all of this off. Like
Ty and Jeff.
Good point.
With the blackmail.
Forgot about the blackmail.
Yeah. The dovetail of the two of those events, the blackmail and the Ty running for office and hiring Jessica Roberts, were the two inciting incidents in the present.
That's right. So Misty was trying to mind her business. Van was trying to mind her business. Those two for sure. Definitely. Who knows what Melissa was up to or if she was planning to send that tape before everybody popped up. But
we have to talk about Walter in the car listening to Slayer's Raining Blood. We have to.
I am obsessed with this.
Because literally
obsessed.
The only thing we've heard him listening to so far is show tunes.
Show tunes with Misty.
And also in his house. He was listening to show tunes.
That's true, but
when he was doing puzzles.
That's a good point. He's also wearing all black. And it's because you can take this one of two ways. One is now we're seeing the real Walter. He's, like
right
when he's not in character. But the other one is Walter's always in character, and now because Misty isn't letting him in, he's got to be behind the scenes, and in his head, that version wears all black and listens to Slayer.
Yeah. The lyrics that we hear from Raining Blood are from a lacerated sky, bleeding its horror, creating my structure, now I shall reign in blood. It's so good.
I want it to be,
I know. I want more Walter.
Yeah, he's so good. Love of my life.
We go briefly back to the wilderness for the aftermath of all of the craziness. Van and Ty have a brief moment where Van is crying. Ty hugs her. Van says, "This is all our fault." Ty says, "We did everything we could." And Van just says, "It's Mari." Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, they've lost so many people, but for some reason, this one is so big to them. And I think it's because they're finally like, some of them have broken that delusion or that spell and have realized that like there is an after this if they try to make there be an after this.
Right. That's a really good point, is that Van has rescue on her mind as something that's possible now.
Yep. And for some people, that's not a driving factor. It's actually the opposite. But for her, everything that happens after they've realized they could go home is so much worse.
Right.
Because now there's an alternative.
Yeah. And it's also like,
and there was always an alternative, by the way, to hunting each other, but still.
And I know I've been a real like Mari apologist along the way, but I just think like, if I were in this circle, I might be like, well, if it's Shauna or Lottie or who are some of the like real key players here, you know what I mean? Like, you might feel a little better. It might make a little more sense for it to be one of those. But Mari's just kind of been here mouthing off and like, you know what I mean?
She's been quietly a really important part of this group the entire time.
Yes.
Yeah. Like,
but
she's always kind of nearby, engaged in what's happening, commenting on it. She's a little bit of an audience proxy in the way that she calls out some of their bullshit. Like, there's also been so much buildup with so many moments where we speculated that Mari was like going to be this ultimate victim because of like the dripping that she hears in the house and all of these, like the blood she sees falling down the walls and all of that.
I can't believe that the only person in that fucking Entertainment Weekly or whatever article whose superlative didn't come true, which is the reason I was holding out hope, was Mari. Do you know what I mean?
I know.
The only one.
Yeah. It didn't come true. It still could be true of her that would be something she would do had she survived. But yeah.
That's a good point.
So they have to get her out of the pit. And Shauna says, pull the stakes up and fill the whole thing in. This also supports that what you were saying about how like the pit being the reason she dies is not satisfying enough.
Right.
For Shauna and maybe for Lottie. Like it feels like a little accidental.
Exactly.
And I need them to like maybe think the way that Ty thinks, where she screams at someone and they die and that might count.
Wait, does that count?
Yeah. Like maybe just scream at Mari, and if she happens to die, the wilderness chose her. And if she doesn't, then the wilderness didn't choose her.
Exactly.
You know?
Yes.
We all know that women from New Jersey can scream people to death. So like try that.
Exactly.
But we get such a like the recreation and additions to the scene from the pilot when they're dragging Mari and we see her face this time. Oh my God. Yeah. And then they hang her up. Like she sees Van and Ty, says, what's the holdup? We've got a feast to prepare.
What's the holdup, Shauna?
I know. She has gotten this imperial queendom in her blood all of a sudden. Like she's been waiting for this moment. But after they string her up, she says, Natalie, please do the honors. And now we realize that wasn't fucking Natalie.
Oh my God, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
Hannah.
That was Hannah.
Hannah has never butchered a person.
No.
I mean, she was probably around for when they butchered Jeff Winger, Joel McHale,
but
Cody.
That's a good point. She had to pretend.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
that's why she has her head down the whole time when she's talking to her.
Yeah. And Natalie's only done it once, so maybe that's why Shauna excuses her not being as good at it. But it is funny that it's not Shauna. Shauna's not the butcher in this scene.
No, Shauna doesn't need to dirty her hands anymore. She's the queen.
That's right. We get a video glitch here too.
Yep. I know. I noted that.
We get more than a glitch. It's like glitchy, this whole thing.
Yeah. We see people's faces sort of observing. We see Misty's face here. Shauna takes the hat and turns it from the mask back to a hat.
I love her. Maybe her mask is my favorite. It's so funny.
It's so fun. Honestly, it's quite clever.
Devil. Yeah.
It's quite clever because it's very simple. And it has two purposes. It's a multitasking kind of thing.
That's right. And she says, are we here?
Yep.
Prepare her for tonight. And when it's done, bring me her hair.
Oh my God, I laughed.
I laughed and I wrote in all caps like L 100 O's L Shauna.
Yeah.
Bring me her hair.
Yes. Seriously? God, the hair thing.
So good.
Yeah.
It's true serial killer behavior. Because you can be a mass murderer and not need to keep souvenirs.
It's a souvenir, right? Exactly. It's serial killer. Like we said last week, you brought up serial killers and I brought up Victorian hair charms.
It's a little bit of both.
Yeah. But I thought this is so funny.
The juxtaposition.
Yes.
The reason that this is one of the reasons I was like, we kind of have to do this one in order.
Yeah. Absolutely, because she's having them prepare the feast of Mari, and then she's microwaving what looks like maybe a Hot Pocket.
How the mighty fall, you know?
I know. She gets a text from Jeff because she's apparently been obsessively calling and texting, of course. And he says, "We are okay. We need space, but so please don't keep calling.
Leave them alone."
Yeah, seriously, she has no self-awareness.
No,
she probably still thinks that it's someone else's doing that they're gone.
I was thinking about what season 4 might look like with her acting as if she is trying to find her family, but it's like she's hunting them.
Yeah,
and
I know.
It just kind of transfers in that direction.
I mean, I will say, well, I'll say that for the end. I was going to say something about like the Callie Shauna thing, but she burns herself. We get a little look around the kitchen because they left so hastily that it looks like they left her kind of a mess to clean up, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
But then she spots the corner of the letter under the fridge.
It's very The Bear.
It is very The Bear. Oh my God, I didn't even think of that. We get another tape effect, and we get a scene of Callie opening the envelope, Jeff scaring her, and the letter conveniently sliding under the fridge. But then we get Mel's letter, and it turns out Mel wasn't lying. Like, I knew there was a letter, but I didn't know if it actually contained the contents that she says it does, about how it's just to clear her conscience. And
right. And so she wasn't lying. Mel is so difficult because the letter says what she said it was going to say.
Right. That's what I mean. I don't mean that she necessarily means that, but yeah.
And in theory, if she had just sent that and things weren't happening the way they were right now, and Shauna wasn't Shauna, she could read that letter, find some peace, and finally sleep at night. You know what I mean? In theory. That's not obviously how things go. Right. And who knows how much Mel really knew of what had been going on.
Yeah.
But yeah, the letter is what she said it would be.
It's what she said it was. Yeah. It says, like, you know, sorry about leading you all to believe I was dead.
Lucy.
Been struggling to let go completely, sending you this tape. It's pretty darn close to evidence of murder, which is why I was keeping it as insurance, blah, blah, blah. Talks about forgiving herself. Shauna, not on board. Not convinced. Tears it into pieces. We get some flashes of the bad stuff.
Well, hold on. It's not...
I say she's not convinced because of what she says next. But...
Well, she's either unconvinced or she doesn't want proof that Melissa...
Or both, yeah.
Right, is... innocent. It's hard. I mean, not innocent because she knows she's Stavan, but you know what I mean.
No, I think it's probably both. I think she wants the evidence gone, and she also is like, no, fuck you.
Exactly.
But we get some flashes here of her killing the rabbit, then killing Adam, pulling the necklace off Callie, biting Mel, all of the stuff we've seen her do that has been sort of like the most outrageous. She does cry briefly, and then she calms herself.
Yeah, it's like she kind of lets herself have one outburst of emotion. And it's funny, when she wipes her tears away, she looks at them on her hand.
Yeah,
she's like, huh.
Yeah.
Like,
I noted that too.
I didn't know I could still do this. But the way she turns it off pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And she grabs the Jolly Hitcher notepad, which I'm so glad, not to harp on the fact that we interviewed Ashley Lyle, creator of the Yellowjackets, last week, or co-creator. But when she confirmed, which we obviously knew, but when she confirmed that the Jolly Hitcher was a direct reference to the Molly Pitcher and that they still stay there, I
made me very
was so happy. But she starts to write. And while she's writing, we're hearing her voiceover and we're getting flashes of what's happening in the woods at the same time. So this is sort of hard to describe, but these are happening simultaneously. So while she's reading aloud what she's writing, she's being dressed by her subjects as the queen. They're pinning hair on her. They're each coming up with a little lock of hair. Lottie is putting the headdress on her. Misty's serving the food. It's this, like, you know, the ritual is finally the full ritual.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so all of that is happening. And then do you have
her writing?
Her writing here.
She's scribbling on her Jolly Hitcher notepad. She says, I tried for years to remember what happened out there, to understand why it seemed like I couldn't remember so much of it, why none of us could. I'm finally starting to realize that we can't remember it because at some point we became so alive in that place that we lost our capacity for self-reflection. The trauma people say survivors forget things to protect themselves because they were so horrible. But I think we can't or won't remember it clearly because we recognize deep down that we were having so much fun. That's the terrible truth we left out there buried alongside the people we called our friends, except it's all coming back to me now. The danger, the thrill, the person I was back then. Not a wife or a mother. I was a warrior. I was a fucking queen. And like, she's not right. It's true for her that she was having fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it's maybe true for Lottie, but it's not true for all of them.
No.
Some of them are blocking it out because it's full on fucking trauma.
Exactly.
And they have PTSD. Like, rough. I was a fucking queen. And they show her in the headdress with the mesh sweater or dress or whatever over her face. And she says, eat and never forget this. Ugh. We get another montage like we've seen in the preview of hands grabbing food. We do see Jen crying. I felt really bad for her. And then adult Shauna, her little coda to her writing is, I let it all slip away from me. It's time to start taking it back.
Taking them all back.
Taking them all back.
It's our time down here.
But that is a very interesting place to, I know this isn't the end, but that's an interesting place to leave adult Shauna in the final episode of this season. Because what the fuck do you mean by that?
I know. Especially when like now it's time to start taking it back when all you've been doing since we met you is hunting people in your adult life.
Right.
So what is the new? It reminded me a little bit of in the pilot when Nat says she lost her purpose and now she knows what it is. And we never really learned what she meant by that because her purpose was never to be a killer. Like that wasn't her thing out there. So I don't know what her... we'll never know what she meant by that, but it felt similar to me. Yeah.
I read I think it was an interview with Ashley and Bart where they were talking about how in a way her family leaving is like this horrible, tragic thing for her. And at the same time, she's feeling this freedom. It's like when you get what you wish for, or you get something that you think is actually going to be the worst thing ever. And then it turns out it's maybe what you wanted all along. Because she doesn't have those things she keeps talking about, being a wife, a mother, the things that are like quote unquote holding her back. Like she didn't want them to leave, but now that they have, she's a little freer.
Right. You know? Like those were choices that she kind of made when she got back, we think, just because it felt like the thing to do and because she was probably trying to like atone for... Atone is not the right word for Shauna, but because of Jackie's death and...
because also when you come back and you're, 17 or 18 years old, your instinct isn't, okay, let's keep doing that shit right now, you know, because like the world's not going to let you do that. Exactly. But when you're 40-something woman and you've like maybe fully lost your mind, like I don't know, maybe it's easier to kind of take that leap.
But I wonder what this freedom
like what mean. Is that?
If
what
this
are
has
you
been
doing,
her restrained,
right?
What is her free?
That's the whole point. Exactly that. Like if we've seen Shauna for 3 seasons being repressed or restrained from what she actually wants to do, and now that her family's gone, she's going to start quote unquote taking it back. What is she going to do?
You remember season 1 when it was so funny at Jackie's parents' house when she said she doesn't even like her daughter, and Jeff said she was kidding, and then she shook her head like, no, I'm not.
Yeah. Yes.
That's all.
I've seen Melanie Linsky has said about the way that she thinks that Shauna thinks is that she does love Jeff and she does love her daughter in her own way, in the way that she can. Right. And it's not the way that we would think of that necessarily, but that she does have that feeling, but it's not like quite what we would expect it to be.
Would expect or hope for, yeah.
But now we get our final scenes in the woods, and finally we get to have a little bit of hope. But first, it's daytime, and I wrote, were they out there all night? Because it looks like they're just coming back from the feast.
It's probably because it's probably like a whole fucking bacchanal, you know?
Yeah. Lottie looks content. Travis looks defeated. And they all walk back. Shauna is playing with the hair on her cloak like a fidget toy.
Just a little freak.
But then she can't let it go. She's got it out for Nat. And it's not Nat, but we think it's still Nat.
Right.
Nat is walking away, and Shauna goes up to her and says, "Hey, Natalie, I want to believe you had nothing to do with what happened out there, but I have my suspicions." And Nat has her head down. She doesn't answer. And so she's pushing. She's, "Really? You're not going to say anything?" Everyone's watching this happen. And we realize why in a minute. She says, "Is this your version of a confession? I'm talking to you," and then pulls the mask off. And it's Hannah.
It's Hannah.
And she says, "Hannah, what did you do?"
Right, because I think she maybe thinks that Hannah killed Nat at first.
I don't know. I think it's just like I thought you were on my side.
Maybe, yeah.
What is going on? But she turns around and we see Travis and Van. And then I think maybe Ty in the mask. I couldn't tell who that was next to her, but I thought it was
sure.
Ty. But Travis and Van have amazing looks on their faces here. Like, fucking got you, bitch. And she screams, "Where the fuck is Natalie?" It's so funny how little she picked up on. She knew something was wrong,
but not the right
but
thing.
She couldn't imagine this, I don't think.
Exactly.
And then Misty.
Well, because she had no idea about the phone.
No, she doesn't know.
So there's no way that she could be thinking it has,
But so we get this beautiful recreation of the Misty shot, taking off her mask, putting her glasses on, her broken glasses, and smiling. And in the pilot, again, this is what we were talking about before. In the pilot, we think that that's because Misty is fucking evil as hell and is happy about the feast and her part in it. And actually, she's happy because they actually pulled it off. They fooled Shauna.
Yeah.
Did you notice that the crack in her glasses now looks like the symbol?
Yeah.
With her eye.
It is symbol adjacent for sure. I kind of like it.
I do too.
I think that's fun. I don't think it's telegraphing any
No,
clues.
I just think it's...
I don't think you do either. It's just I saw some people.
Yeah.
I saw some people who didn't like it. Who refused to see it as the symbol because they thought it wouldn't make sense for that to be there because it wouldn't be. But it's just symbolism is fun.
To me, it tracks with the fact that this symbol may still not mean anything.
Exactly.
It could be a fucking mining symbol that they have placed all this power into. Like Lottie designed her entire compound around the symbol. And that was all bullshit. So the symbol is just whatever they want it to be.
And it's here in the glasses. Yeah, I thought that was really fun.
I loved it.
That shot is parallel to the original shot is very different. It's like a different time of day. She has blood on her, like she's got dirt on her face in a way that is different from all of the Pit Girl in those scenes, which are painstakingly recreated. And I think people are reading a lot into that. And I wasn't. I think that like it's possible she was smiling in both of those scenes because she knew this was happening and this is the final one, and it still gives us that same effect that you were talking about that I think is the important part.
Yeah.
Whether
it didn't bother
happened
me
at night or daytime.
Right. Yeah. No, I think the whole
point is like you said.
Yeah. The point for me is that we're seeing the same events through another lens, right? We're seeing the same events through maybe a more accurate lens. Question mark, like who knows what accurate is, who's telling the story, but
at least a more nuanced lens for sure.
Yeah, with more detail.
Right.
So we pull back and you don't realize how claustrophobic even the outdoor wood scenes are until you see like a vista.
Exactly.
Like a mountain, mountains covered in snow. We get our song. So
funny.
I'm sure that most people listening probably listened to our interview and heard Ashley talk about the song they couldn't afford for the pilot and heard her say that it was going to be used in the finale. Obviously, this is it. We've got Aerosmith, Living on the Edge. Love it.
So just big, huge song in this big,
open
huge
space.
moment. In this just really good. And just how I know that I am so soft on that and have a hard time blaming her for anything because she's done nothing wrong and I'm right to treat her that way.
Of course.
But I just was thinking like how when she heard that person's voice, like what that must have felt like in her body.
I mean, and honestly, like the lead up to it really sets that up because like, so she gets up there, she opens the case, she puts on the antenna that, you know, Misty got from the transponder. She gets this static. We see the property of KUH prominently on there. She gets static and she's trying to wait for it to fully connect, but she says, fuck it. And she starts talking and she says like, please help us. Please God, send fucking help. We're out here. A lot of people in the cast, when asked about their favorite scene from the finale, they almost all said this Sophie Thatcher scene.
Yeah.
Because she is like hysterical, like desperate. And finally she says, hello, can anyone hear me? And we hear the 4 words. And in the closed caption, it just says, man, I can hear you.
I can hear you.
Close. End of season. Amazing.
It's good stuff.
I obviously want more. I want more to happen, more detail, more everything. But like, this was such a good way to end the season because we also know that this isn't going to happen immediately.
Right.
Because more people die before they leave. We don't know how many, but we know Hannah dies.
Right.
And so like, this isn't going to be like Nat just waits up there for the helicopter that comes tomorrow.
Right. Exactly.
So, God, they better get a 4th season.
I know.
Oh my God.
I think they will.
I hope so.
I think they will. I think this season in general, it seems like did pretty well popularity wise. I know reactions have been
individual episodes kind of went up and down.
But overall, and I think that my guess is like, I think like even if this show were the most watched show on TV and everybody was watching it because they hated it, Paramount Plus and Showtime, like they'd still renew it because they don't care why people are watching. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in that in between. If we'll even see what happens in between.
Right. I mean, they could do a time jump, you know? Like that we could see the rescue through the lens of like the media coverage of it instead of through their lens. So I think because we've been going for a while and because I don't want to give short shrift to all of the post-season analysis and breakdown and themes that have come up, I think we're going to do that as our episode next week. So because this recap has taken its well-deserved time.
And not even just because we've been talking for so long, but I do feel like I need some more time to sit with it and think about.
Absolutely.
And so you guys do that as well. Send us, would love. We'll have a little time now. Let us know what you've been thinking about since the finale. If you have any questions for us, if you have any theories, what you're thinking about for season 4, all of that, we'd love to hear from you.
100%. And we'll give that info in a second, but I just in the meantime want to say thank you to the folks that have been so kind recently in the last week or so about both our interview with Ashley and also just in general about our pod. Like, you know, we just peek behind the curtain, don't even look at our numbers at this point. Like, we don't know how many people are listening. It's always so nice to hear from people. We got some great new reviews on Apple Podcasts, which was lovely. I didn't expect that. I went on there. There were a couple new ones. One of them was just, I believe his name is Derek, just as we had asked, gave us his Slurpee order, which I very much appreciated.
Derek GQ, which I'm assuming stands for Gantler Queen.
Right, of course. And also has a correct order. It's Coke and cherry mixed. So good job, Derek. So yeah, I think that if you are one of our more longtime listeners that's been enjoying us, like we would love it if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts if you want to. You can just tell us, you know, still what your favorite Slurpee is. But also reach out and send us your theories, your ideas, your loves and hates, or not hates, your loves and your questions.
Your roses, your buds, your thorns.
Right. So to email us, you can reach out to watcherspodnj@gmail.com. And you can also message us on Instagram at watcherspodnj.
That's right.
And you can find me on Instagram at Jodie_Mim, Jodie_MIM. For those of you that are relatively new here, that is my art account. So there's not going to be a lot of Yellowjackets stuff on there. So if that's not your vibe, no worries. You can just communicate with us via the Watchers Instagram. But if you're interested in like textile art and photography, sure, come on over.
It's all very cool. Jodie's a good follow. I'm at AQ Andrea Q, and
that's mostly photos of Pacey.
It's mostly photos of my dog.
Yeah, which are also worth a follow. And your cats.
That's true.
So yeah, next week we will kind of take the, more 1,000-foot view of season 3 and the finale. And we'll give you a heads up as to what's going on the off season. For those of you that are relatively new here, you may or may not know that between seasons last time around, we did a number of different films that kind of connect to the Yellowjackets universe in some way. We also did a bunch of TV show pilots that we really loved. We covered a few shows in brief, like The Bear. Somehow I ended up watching all of Dawson's Creek, so who knows what's going to happen this time around?
Yeah. I think the show I watched every episode of was Evil.
Yes. Oh, so did I.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You watched a lot more.
I watched
all the shows than I did, but
yes.
Yeah.
If you are interested in this kind of pop culture stuff, you might want to, obviously stick around for next week, but then maybe stick around beyond that because...
Yeah. And we're always taking recommendations.
Yes. And go back to the nice thing about having done all of those movies is that they're kind of evergreen because you can always look at them in relationship to Yellowjackets and other pop culture of this type. So yeah, go check those out too.
I guess that's it.
Yeah. We'll see you next week from the top of a mountain.
Board. Oh, okay.
From the top of a mountain. Did you say the corkboard?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe we'll bring the corkboard to the top of the mountain.
And then we'll throw some pins in the old corkboard at the top of the mountain.
Yeah.
Okay. That feels
bye.
like the end of the episode. Bye.
We did it.